What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Everything Paranormal Show. I believe this is like episode 209, but who's counting? Any case, guys, welcome to tonight's show, and we have got a special for you. It is Halloween night, so if you're expecting spooky talk and ghost stories, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but we have some good discussions we're going to be talking about. And the main subject right off the bat is going to be we're going to be talking about this. I wanted to kind of bleed a little bit of paranormal and politics together, and talk about there's been a lot of news stories where witches' spells have not been working against Trump, and they're like, he has a shield. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. We got an article that we're just going to pick one of them because they're all roughly the same, but we're going to pick one of the articles and we are going to react to it. And of course, as you guys are used to, if you watch the show, you know Stacey Tallitsch with me, and he is our resident expert on things that are witchcrafty and spiritual in that nature. I'm the ghost hunter. Of course, I know my stuff too, but he is our expert on that. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get into this article and we're going to talk about it. But first of all, Stacey, how's it going tonight? How are you doing tonight, brother?
Doing great. I mean, Halloween is kind of a bust here. It all of a sudden just decided it was going to rain and get all sloppy. So not many trick-or-treaters are out.
Oh.
I was going to do my stone soup. It's a neighborhood thing in the South where people just come and feed the adults and give the kids diabetes. It's something the community does. It's a small town, so it's fun. But we cancel it because it's over an open fire. I got this big cast iron pot. It's like, a big 10-gallon cast iron pot that I stir, and the neighbor lady dresses up as a witch, and it looks really cool.
Nice. No, that's awesome. Like, it was nice here. It was actually pretty hot. It got to like 80 degrees today in Northeast Tennessee. So it was a pretty decent day out. Nighttime when it started cooling down, the sun was going down. Perfect weather out here. I talked to a buddy back in Michigan who said it was also gloomy up there. So we must have been in the middle, man. We were like gloom and doom in the south and the north, and we were sandwiched in the middle with some sunshine. So
it's hot here, but I mean, it cools down a little bit, and all of a sudden the sky, opens up because of its cold snap up in the sky. But
yeah. And so guys, also tonight, if I do a little or whatever, I've got this bronchial type thing because I enjoyed a weekend recently where I kind of went off my carnivore diet and had some alcohol and some bad foods, and it brought back my snoring, and and then I end up with some bronchial stuff. So it's just back there. It's just irritating me. I've been taking zinc and some things and stuff. So, and I've been back to my diet. So I'm okay. I'm feeling all right, but it's just there, and I got a little bit of drainage. So I'm just letting y'all know if I do any kind of, I'm going to try to keep it down to not very annoying, hopefully.
Yeah, I got the same thing except cigarettes. So there's that.
Yeah. But guys, let's get into the story. I'm excited to talk about this. So I'm going to pull this up for you guys to see. This is from CBN. CBN, again, you can see the nice little thumbnail they have. If you haven't seen my thumbnail, I did the Hocus Pocus, like the Bette Midler shooting lightning, and it's shooting at Trump, and Trump's got the white aura around him, as like shields or something. So, but yes, witches report their spells against Trump aren't working. He has a shield. Now, I'm not going to get into this first beginning. Looks like blah, blah. Like they put so much word stuff in here. This just setting up the whole things. Okay, witches seem to be obsessed with trying to hex Trump since he entered politics. As CBN News reported throughout Trump's presidency, witches are publicly trying to bind him and even his Supreme Court picks, casting spells against them, especially in the lead up to 2020 election. The trendiness of witchcraft and social media. Let's see. I had such a fear that gripped my life, it crippled me. The next thing I knew, I was seeing things, hearing things, and I was being tortured by demonic spirits. What the hell's this? Okay, Weavers encourages if you're practicing witchcraft, I'm asking you to give your heart to Jesus.
Yeah, CBN always has to have the ex-witch who confesses of all of the evil things that was going on and all the torment that they went through when they were playing with tarot cards. It's, that's just part of the formula with CBN. But
Yeah.
the whole
And
idea behind why it's not working is, first, they're amateurs. It's not a religion. They're not really witches. They're Instagram witches that are doing things called freezer spells, which are as milk toast as you can get. It's more on the lines of The Secret than it is actual witchcraft.
well, and apparently one of these, and I don't remember which one it was. I was reading one of these. I wish I had that one. It says they're talking about orange candles, maybe for binding. Yellows are for something different. They were talking about freezer spells. Apparently, they were trying to do a lot of freezer spells.
Yeah, that's really milk toast and amateur. You take a picture of somebody, you write whatever it is that you want to prevent them from doing on it. You put it in a Ziploc bag and then you put it in your freezer as though that's going to do something. It's really that generic.
Right.
It's not much of anything. And, like I said, they learn these things off of each other on Instagram as though it's going to do something. Now, there's hoodoo stuff that's actually a tradition that has things that are similar to that, but they're much more involved, first of all. Second of all, these things, whenever you do something, there's a thing called eche. It's in Spanish, they call it eche. It basically means blessings. You have to have authority from the other side that you can do certain things in order to do certain things. Just wishing it is the same as blowing out candles on a birthday cake. It really doesn't manifest the same thing as actual witchcraft or even the traditions, the superstition traditions like Santeria, Palmayombe, even hoodoo and conjure. These things actually have traditions attached to them, and you're given with constant working eche, the blessings in order to do it. Learning it on Instagram. I mean, it's like shooting it using a pea shooter against a freight train and expecting it to do something.
Right.
It's just not gonna work. And the news media likes to bring it out because, well, they talk amongst themselves on a public forum like Instagram. Somebody reads it and says, "Oh, I can write a story about this," and it's perennial. Every Halloween they do it, and on some level, all the time, every year. So.
And right now, like, I would just offer a simple explanation and just tell people, like, think about it like this: if you have two sides of something, and you have, let's say, Trump and his supporters, and then you have Kamala and her supporters, let's say witches, right? Witches versus Trump. All right. And if you think about how many Trump supporters are probably praying for Trump and his safety. Yeah. Okay. How many do you think there's more people praying for Trump's safety on one team than you do the other team that is probably casting spells? Okay. Well, which side is bigger? Now, I will say, like I said, I'm not trying to say, like, I'm not trying to do a comparison of like witchcraft versus Jesus or something like that. But I'm just saying, as you know, prayers are a form of spell with as far as intent, when there's intent to them, things like that. So I'm just saying, like, which side do you think is really casting that protection and all this other stuff too? So anyways, go ahead.
Well, not just that, but in his biggest supporters in the country also do that as well. They're in Miami, Halela, Miami, the huge Santeria community, the Cubans in Miami.
Right.
They're all for Trump. They lived through the days of communism that is still fresh in their mind from Cuba. And they support Trump because he's not communist. And, well, the other side is. So they're doing things, spell work and prayer and things for Trump. And you want to talk about it, compared to the Instagram witches, you got it's like PhDs going against, preschoolers in comparison. Uh, the Santeros in Miami are far and above anything that you can get off of the internet.
Right.
On
Which is
that
for
level.
Trump. I
What's
wonder
that?
how there's a group out there for like Trump. There really is like groups like when they say when they try to pin like Trump up against minority groups and stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like every time you turn around, there's like gays for Trump, Latinos for Trump, blacks for Trump. There's probably like witches for Trump. You know what I mean? There probably is. There's probably somebody out there. There's probably a small group. They're like, we're the good witches. We're gonna, and they're probably trying to cast protection spells and everything else.
Yeah. Well, the founder of the Proud Boys was a Santero out of Miami, and
He was
you want to talk
Cuban,
about
right? Wasn't it Cuban, right?
He's Cuban, and they were trying to tell everyone that he was a white supremacist.
Right.
It's like, no.
It was like a joke. They started Proud Boys as it was really like a joke. And not only that, but like the whole mission of it was like, it wasn't even, it was like to cherish women. Like in a way, it's like, hey, if you are like a traditional woman and you want to take care of your man, like your man's gonna take care of you. It was just like traditionalism stuff. It wasn't even like, but it wasn't even like race. It wasn't even black and white. It was like, it was so stupid. It was like these guys, they became the boogeymen for media. But anyways,
yeah, they started off during the Summer of Love as being like guardian angels. They didn't go in to fight. What they did is they surrounded people who were being intimidated and threatened by Antifa. Basically say, you got to get through us to get to them. And that's how all the fighting started. They didn't back down when somebody took a swing at one of the Proud Boys. They responded in kind.
Right.
But
well, I mean, they were just being normal people, so to speak, standing up for what was right at the moment. Yeah. And then they became labeled as, racist and all this other stuff, just like many, many people have fallen into.
Right.
But I'm gonna probably just go ahead and say right off the bat that, guys, if you're watching this, I know that normally we talk about paranormal, okay, and I usually leave most politics out of it. If you guys have been watching the show for a long time, you probably know where Stacey and I stand. We've kind of flirted. We've sort of made our opinions fairly well known in a way, fairly veiled, but not really. So I would say that you probably know where you stand, and I'm sure that you are probably on the same side as us. But if you're not political, if politics offends you or you're afraid of what we might say, I would give you a spoiler warning right now. Just say, hey, if you want to just know me as strictly paranormal, turn off now. I'm giving you the heads up, because tonight we're really talking about politics because it is that important. I know it's Halloween night. Normally I do a Halloween special. We talk about the history of Halloween. I've been doing that almost every year, but this election is that important. And I think it's important that we talk about some things. So we're going to run through, if you're interested, if you are on the fence and I don't know how you're on the fence at this point, but let's just say you're late to the game and you're like, man, everybody keeps telling me I need to get involved in this. If you're coming to this late and you're like, hey, everybody keeps telling me I need to get involved, this is super, super important, so let me try to catch up on some research. We're going to cover some things tonight. We're going to debunk some things that have been constantly said from one side or the other. Keep in mind that I'm going to tell you right now, I'm only, if you honestly can say that you think just because of my views that I'm any kind of ism, phobia, whatever, you're wrong. I'm actually very moderate in my politics. Stacey, I'll let him explain. He wasn't even Republican. No.
I'm still registered a Democrat. I just vote however I want.
Right. So, and I'll let him talk more about his views as well. But I just want to say, like, we're just here to try and help our fellow Americans understand and get through the bullshit. Because honestly, the media is so bad. There's so many organizations that just and if like the top group of media lies or manipulates truth, the rest of them start following suit because they start copying and pasting their own. Like it's almost like the same buzzword you just see in like multiple articles, and it's just like, ugh, it's so horrible. And as an investigator, I have to dig through these things and get to the facts, or at least get to something that debunks these things. So, anyways, we're going to spend some time. You're welcome to join along. Again, if you don't know what's going on with the show, again, please, we're here to have some fun with politics. But like I said, this is going to be a political episode tonight. So, sorry guys, but this is important. We're right before. So, if you haven't voted, by the way, I already voted. So I did the early vote. I'm proud. Got it out there. Got it scanned. Tennessee, where I live, is one of the top most secure elections. They hardly have any errors. So it is amazing. It was such a pleasant experience. So happy.
Did you see the thing about Kentucky? Kentucky's machines, they were anytime somebody punched on, because it was touch screen, they would touch Trump and it would automatically default to Kamala.
Really?
Yeah.
No, we actually had paper ballots. We had paper ballots and we circled everything in. You fill it in just like the old Scantron test. Fill everything in and you go to the scanner, it scans it in, everything. So very, very simple. I love paper ballots. It's exactly how we should do. All states should do it.
Yeah.
So
we're same day voting here. There's no early voting here.
Yeah, I wanted to wait until election day, but believe it or not, I can tell you, Stacey, I went there last week, and I went there with my friend. We were gonna early vote. Well, he got there before me, so like a few minutes before me, and then you walk in. It's like in one of the buildings from the school, like one of the local high schools. They use one of the buildings. So you walk in, they immediately usher you to the right. You're like, hey, go this way, because the other direction is where the main thing is. So then there was this line all the way down this hallway. So I go down all this hallway, turn left. The line goes all the way down that hallway. I was like, son of a bitch, all the way down that hallway. Get to the end, turn left, and there's a group of people there, and my buddy was there, but there was like 10 more people behind him. And I'm like, dude, you didn't fucking wait for me. But anyways. By the way, guys, I'm going to be cussing this episode. When I get talking about politics, I'm going to be cussing. So heads up. Anyways, I'm just like, screw this. I didn't feel like waiting. I didn't want, I was like, I'll just go like another time. Cause this was like afternoon. So I'm thinking, okay, well then yesterday I was like, I better get in there because the deadline was the 31st. It was today for Tennessee. So I got up early, and the early voting was open at 9 a.m. So good job stuffing things. He already voted too. I hope you voted for the right person. Anyways, so then I get there at like, I don't know, about 7 till 9, right? And the doors are open. You can go in there. So I go in there, and the same thing. I go down the hall. I was like, fuck. And I turn left. That is filled all the way down. I go all the way down to that hallway, and then the same place where I turned the corner and my friend was standing, that hallway was lined up. I was like, son of a bitch, the line is even longer. And this is in the morning before the polls even opened. So I stood in line. Thank God, once they opened at 9 o'clock, though, I was out of there by 9:30. So it wasn't that bad. Like, even though there was a super, super long line, but I think what's cool about that is just like, I don't know if it's good or bad, but a ton of people were fucking in line,
That's the overall sentiment. Trump is going to take it, and he's going to get 270. That's the, for the electoral college, he's going to get 270 when they call Texas. And Texas is called, he'll have the 270. You won't even need the second half of the country. He'll get it. He'll get into the 300 range, but 270 is what you need.
Right.
And the one state that he absolutely must do is Pennsylvania. He can take it without Pennsylvania. It'll just be a little bit harder, but Kamala has to have it. That's checkmate. So he wins Pennsylvania, it's game over. Everything else is just, an exercise in democracy.
Right.
It's checkmate.
Well, and he does need. I mean, he does need Michigan and Arizona and stuff. I mean, like Michigan, they're showing Michigan. I'm trying to see if I could. I was trying to pull this up.
He can lose Michigan.
Well, and that's the stupidest thing right now too. So let's pull this up here. So, like right now, we're looking at this is where we are according to 270towin.com.
Mm-hmm.
And this is based on right now. This is based on their overall polling, and like if it was to go right now, we have toss-ups. So let's say that Trump pulls off Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina. The Democrats just pulled out advertising because of how early voting was trending.
Yeah.
Well, let's say he takes that. We're already at 262.
Uh-huh.
So, and that's not even with Nevada. But again, he could take. Now, this is the three that I'm worried about, right? So, because even if he takes Nevada, like he has to have Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Michigan
Michigan.
If he takes one of these, though, that's the thing. If he takes Wisconsin, 272.
Yeah. Michigan and Wisconsin always vote to the right of Pennsylvania. So if he's got Pennsylvania, he's taking Michigan and Wisconsin. Now, the real toss-up is actually Virginia. They don't show it here because they assume too much. Kamala's not that, and she's losing Virginia. She's within the margin of error on Virginia.
Well, and Virginia would put them there too, and they wouldn't even need any of these.
Of all those, Virginia is further to the left than Pennsylvania. If he takes Virginia, he'll take Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin.
Well, and I would agree. But what's interesting too is Virginia went to paper ballots this year.
Yep.
That's one thing Youngkin did. Youngkin really took the lead. He's Republican, and
he won the Supreme Court purge. They were trying to get all of these illegals, on the voter rolls, and they sued into the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court sided with Virginia, saying, "Yeah, you can purge those illegals."
Right, and now there's another interesting thing I wanted to bring up, and that is the polls. So right now, I don't think I have. Anyways, I wish I was more prepared for this type of stuff but there is the national polls right now. We might pull it up here in a second. I want to keep the map up for now. But the national polls, the aggregate national poll, Trump's up like 0.4%. Well, the thing is that if you go back now, what's scary is I know they're always trying to get polling more and more accurate. But let's face it, who really does polls, right? Is it Republicans? Is it, are Republicans answering the phone and talking to polls? But so anyways, the point I'm getting at is if you go back to 2016, 2020, and you look at the polls there, as far as error rate, like we're talking like where they had Clinton up, where they had Biden up, and then the actual results of those elections.
Yeah.
There's an error rate, right? And Democrats were favored by at least 4%, 4 to 6%. Right? Now, if you apply that to today, and they're saying like, Kamala's up in Michigan by 1% or blah, 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 right? Well, she's within that margin of error. And even if we just applied, like if you said, okay, the minimal was 4% error rate. Well, let's just cut that in half. If you applied 2 points to these polls right now, Donald Trump wins hands down.
Yeah. Well,
so
any poll they do that has a greater margin of error than 3,
up.
if it's 3.5 or 4 or even 5, any of these margin of errors that exceed 3 are worthless polls, completely worthless. And that's a statistical hard rule. When polling is done, you have to sample, as even as you can possibly get. And the majority of these polls, CNN polls, and there's a whole bunch of them out now. They're sampling 3-1, 3 Democrats for every 1 Republican. And these are the numbers that they produce in favor of one side because they're oversampling one side. They cannot get it right. The only poll that got it right in both 2016 and 2020 was Rasmussen. If you want to find one that is the most accurate, 538, right. Nate Silver, all of this other stuff is bullshit. Rasmussen
Right.
is the one that consistently got it right within 0.01.
Now, even right here, this is real clear polling. And if you look at the top battleground states, look where they got Trump up 2.4. Look at this. Even in Pennsylvania, he's up 0.6. Now, granted, these are within the margin of error. But if we look at Michigan and Wisconsin, 0.5 and 0.2 for Harris. But the thing is, like we talked about, if you applied even just half of that error rate, the minimal error rates in the past, presidential elections, they always favored Democrats by at least 4 to 6% in the polls. So if you go to and you apply even just half of that, I mean, look, he would easily win all of these states.
Biden was up by 9 in the aggregate the last week before the election. Biden was up by 9 percentage points, and he won by 40,000 votes. So the margin of error on these things is beyond stupid.
And look at him just taking off. If you look here, he's got Harris for a little bit there in September. This was the honeymoon phase, right? All this little blue area, that was the honeymoon phase when Biden withdraws. See, they even have it lined. See the line right here? And you just see everybody was just like, oh, okay. And again, this was that ramp up of the honeymoon period. And then the more she kept doing interviews, and the more people were like, oh my God, she has no substance. And then here we are. And then Trump takes back over right here at September 21st. See? So now,
then it's just been comes from a middle class family.
Look at this. And then up and up and up. And this has been kind of hanging out at one point now.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's crazy. And then if you look here, they even said right now, based on just their polls right now, if the polls were accurate, it would be Trump Vance 287. Look at that. Yeah. They gave Pennsylvania to them. They even kept Virginia. They gave Nevada and Arizona red. They just kept basically Wisconsin and Michigan. You know what I mean? So, I mean, if you were to go with, again, just this, you're talking like 287. So, I mean, I think none of us likes to jinx, right? That superstition. Nobody wants to jinx this because we're all butthurt from 2020, right? Stuff and things said red wave. I'm always nervous saying things like red wave and stuff like that because again, 2020. Now, I'll give you an example. My friend that I was talking to from Michigan, he told me, he's like, now he said, 2016 is the first time I ever voted. And he's like, I voted for Trump. And he goes, 2020 came, and he goes, I just figured Trump had it in the bag. I didn't vote. And see, and that is one of the reasons why we failed as a Republican Party in 2020. We got too laid back. We all thought Trump had it.
Yeah.
And we ignored it.
2020 was the first time that the party that won the White House did not gain seats in Congress. They lost seats. That in of itself shows you there was something else going on for 2020. There was a lot of shenanigans that took place that, with the COVID, the lockdowns, the mail-in voting, a lot of things happened where they could not break the entire election on the federal level into its normal pattern. They just went with putting someone in the White House, and Congress lost seats because they came within 2 seats of losing Congress altogether, and then ended up losing it in 2022. But Nancy Pelosi was pissed because for the first time, Congress actually became less dominant because of the party that won the White House. That never happened before, which is kind of an indicator of you can only bullshit us for so long because we can see patterns, we know things.
Oh yeah. Now I do want to
the same thing not the same thing, but the pattern is going to come back to normal this time. The Senate's coming back, and they're going to win more seats in the House because the party that's winning is going to take over the Congress as well. So
I do want to get into. I want to get into this here. Now, this person wrote this letter to her people, her leftist people, and people follow her for her letters, I guess, and stuff. So this is going to be kind of long, but I'm gonna go through things in sections. I'm not just gonna waste your time reading it. So this is Sunday, October 27th is when she wrote this. So this is right after the Madison Square Garden rally, just to kind of give you all some context. So she says, and I'm not going to name names, don't matter. She says, "I stand corrected. I thought this year's October surprise was the reality that Trump's mental state had slipped so badly he could not campaign in any coherent way. It turns out that the 2024 October surprise was the Trump campaign's fascist rally at Madison Square Garden, a rally so extreme that Republicans running for office have been denouncing it all over social media tonight." Now, I just want to stop there because I don't want to. I just want us to break down. I don't want us to forget too much. So I think the two most important things to talk about right off these two paragraphs is, like, obviously the whole mental state thing, that's dumb, but the fascist rally, and then of course Republicans running for office have been denouncing it all over social media. So I'll let you go first on this one, Stacey. What do you have to say about that?
The problem I have with leftists is they have yet to crack open a dictionary. They use words in context as though they understand what they mean. Words like democracy, fascist. They don't even know what a woman is. Yet they will turn around and use them out of context as a dog whistle for whatever thing they're talking about. Most of the time it's dog whistling assassination instructions, but they don't understand what these words mean. Fascist has an actual meaning, and they're using it as interchangeable as Legos. It's not what it is. I don't know. That's my beef, is they just don't understand words, and they say them as though they do, and it's, again, dog whistle.
Right. And let's take a quick moment and let's just look at now, again, Webster Merriam Dictionary, they have done a lot of woke things in the past, but let's just see what they say. Fascism, a populist political philosophy, movement, or regime, such as that of fascisti, that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and by forcible suppression of the opposition. So, although they would like to, in my opinion, they want to.
Can you pull up a picture? Can you pull up a picture of Nancy Pelosi standing at the podium in Congress when she's at the dais.
Yeah.
I want to show you something. Fascist is a Roman word. It comes from the ancient Roman Empire, and what it looks like, a fascist is a single bladed axe wrapped and bundled with sticks, and it was the authority of what was ruled over the people. It's a symbol of, in ancient Rome, a symbol of Jupiter.
Now, are you talking about like something like this?
Behind the gavel there, you see that gold leaf thingy?
Right.
That is a fascist. The founding fathers of this country wanted the power of government to be in Congress, not in the executive. That's why the fascist behind Nancy Pelosi sits there. They intentionally made that symbolism for, making sure that the Congress is the one that ruled the government from the people, the people's house.
But I mean, and not only that, but like if you look at, I mean, first of all, the founding fathers were not about big government, and that's what fascism, or that's what a fascist leader is going to do. Is they're going to like Stalin, they're going to put the government above everybody else. And now Hitler was not fascist; he was totalitarian. I always fuck up that word, totalitarianism, right? Hitler was, it was not the same as fascism. It was similar. They shared similar things, but again, and then these severe economic and social regimentations and stuff. This is not what Trump's doing. Like, we're talking about an anti-war, person that was trying to reduce the government. That's not fascist. It's not fascist. Sorry, that's kind of opposite.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't want to get caught up too much on that. But she talked about fascist. It's funny when the people, the media, the left media decides, hey, we're going to point out how Hitler also had a rally in Madison Square Garden in 1939 and blah, blah, blah. Like, who cares? What does that have to do with Trump's rally? Like, why are you, like, I know why they're doing it, but you can't just say that because Hitler did it and Trump's doing it. Therefore, it's Nazism.
Hitler was on the cover of Time magazine.
And not only that,
Kamala was on the cover of Time magazine.
Right. So can we say that Kamala's a Nazi? Anyways, but here's the thing. The Democrats have had rallies at Madison Square Garden in the past. So again, it's just a null, stupid point. It's them constantly throwing out fascism and like the word fascist and Nazi. Like, they've been throwing this shit out for almost a decade now. Yeah. And the funny thing is what a lot of these leftists don't realize is it's like that cyclone, right? That whirlpool. And people are in that real tight knit part of that whirlpool, right? They're in there, they're just in there with all this hatred and all this crap. And the minute somebody gets out of that, right, they get spun out, right? So, and we've been having people get spun out of that. Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks, she was leftist for the longest time, and now she's getting red pilled because, again, she had a real life incident, and all of a sudden people were starting to like turn on her. And it's like, again, she was in that little tight funnel. And then as soon as any little thing happens, boom, she was spun out and like, oh my God, then people were turning against her. And they've been doing that to themselves for the last 8-9 years. Just any little thing. And they just, and you get spun out of there. And it's insane.
Liberals and leftists used to be on the same page. Now they're not. Liberals, Bill Maher is even being red pilled. He's a liberal who's like, these people are fucking nuts. I
keep waiting, but he still kept trying to cling on. Like, he still, every time you think he makes progress though, because he'll be like, you people are fucking stupid. Like, he'll come out and just be like, you people are ignorant. Yeah. And then he'll turn right around and still try to debate. And, he's still trying to hold on to his.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, you could actually talk political philosophy.
right.
as a liberal. You can't do that anymore. It's left to pedophiles, perverts, and groomers. That's the only thing that's left in the Democratic Party. It's crazy.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about too in that paragraph, or those two paragraphs, was Republicans running for office that's been denouncing it all over social media. I think first of all, they love to frame this stuff, but you can't just generalize and say that politicians are denouncing it. Because first of all, which politicians? Because some of them are fucking rhinos. All right.
Yeah.
They're rhinos. Of course, they're going to denounce whatever. They're going to say bullshit. And second of all, when they say they denounce it, what are they talking about? They're talking about the whole rally, or are they talking about the incident with Tony Hinchcliffe and the off-putting comments?
Yeah, he got booed in the moment too.
Right. We're gonna talk about that. So we're gonna talk about that. That's coming up. But I just wanted to say that these politicians, you can't just throw that in your little letter and not specify. That was very generic. So I can't. Anyways, I'm not gonna say that. Okay, so let's continue on. This is the next bit. All right, you ready for this? So after she said, they were announcing all over social media tonight, there was never any question that this rally was going to be anything but an attempt. This is going to get good here, to inflame Trump's base. The plan for a rally at Madison Square Garden itself deliberately evoked its predecessor, a Nazi rally at the old Madison Square Garden in 1939. About 18,000 people showed up for that true Americanism event, held on a stage that featured a huge portrait of George Washington in his Continental Army uniform flanked by swastikas. Now, like that earlier event, Trump's rally was supposed to demonstrate power and inspire his base to violence. God damn, you can't make this shit up. Apparently, in anticipation of Sunday rally, Trump on the previous, remember, I'm stressing, she's saying the previous Friday night, replaced his signature blue suit with red tie with a black and gold of the neo-fascist Proud Boys. That extremist group was central to the Jan 6 attack on the U.S. Capitol and has been rebuilding to support Trump again in 24. Now, I'm going to pause there because there's more, but that's a good place. So, so you went first last time on some of that. I'm just gonna point out the fact that, again, we did talk about the Nazi rally. Fucking stupid, right? It's like you're pointing out stupid shit. It's like if the Democrats, when they held their rally there, we could have been saying the same shit. Oh, the shut up. It's a venue, okay? And it was even the old building. It wasn't even the same building. Also, I love how they keep trying to say that Trump is trying to call his base to violence. They've been saying this for like 8 or 9 years. Where's the violence? Now, they're going to say Jan 6. Right. A bunch of tourists with fanny packs. Yeah. Hell of an insurrection. Shut the hell up. Anyways, where is all this other violence that they keep calling on? So that's just something I wanted to throw out there. It's just so stupid. And then, so the whole black and gold tie that he wore, I guess, at the Michigan rally or whatever, like the previous Friday night. First of all, folks, the Proud Boys, Stacey and I we talked about them earlier. It's a joke. It's not, the Proud Boys are not what you think they are. Learn the facts. And as far as gold goes, Trump loves gold. It's a documented fact. The man has gold toilets and shit, right?
Those are the colors of the Saints. Black and gold are the Saints' colors in Louisiana, in New Orleans. You're going to start calling the Saints Nazis? Really?
Probably do.
Wow.
Actually, I did see a post where they were showing all the apostles. Again, whether you want to follow the Bible or not, somebody was pointing out all the ways that the apostles were all killed, except for like one or two of them that lived to old age. Yeah. And somebody was just like, oh, they were all fake, whatever, or con artists. It's like people were making fun of like Jesus's crew. It's like they don't care, man. They don't care. They'll say whatever.
historical fact about Hitler at Madison Square Garden. Hitler just didn't show up at Madison Square Garden. He was invited. The event was organized by the progressives at Yale. Yes, progressives. They are the ones that invented eugenics at Yale. That's where the whole master final solution thing from Germany came from. It didn't come from Germany. It came from Yale. They are the ones that invented eugenics and wanted to instill it here in the United States in the 20s. Even the Supreme Court agreed. And we came a hair's length of instituting a final solution of our own of euthanasia because the Supreme Court said, 3 generations of imbeciles is enough. They were going to do euthanasia here in America against anyone who had any kind of disability, whether they be blind, whatever it was, because 3 generations of imbeciles is enough. That came from the Supreme Court. That came out of Yale. Those bastards are the ones that invited Hitler to Madison Square Garden where they did their rally. The progressives, not the conservatives.
Right.
They didn't want anything to do with that. It was the progressives. So this whole idea that it was a Nazi rally from the right is horseshit.
Well, and I think we all know that. Look, if the left, and I'm not saying that they don't know, but it's pretty clear if for all their college education and everything else, they always try to act like they're so smart above Trump supporters and all this stuff, that they're the college educated, like, Ivy League, like we're smarter than that. You're just so dumb. You can't understand. You're not up there. And I think what's funny is like, you can't even label Nazis as left or right. Like you can't do right or left. If you go through the Nazi party, they're neither, but they do take from both type of philosophy. I mean, you're going to have bleed over in multiple philosophies. Mm-hmm. But the Nazis they weren't fascist. They were the totalitarianism, and their different actions.
National Socialist. That's what Nazi is a truncation of National Socialist in German.
Right.
So they were National Socialist, which is what the Democratic Party is.
Right. But people were trying to argue that was like in name only. But then if you want to play that game, then yeah, look at their actions. Because, and they say, oh, well, Trump, see, god dang. Hitler was a Christian, and that's not necessarily true either, because he had some very anti-Christian things to say in his time as well. So again, now, like I said, I'm not going to sit there and argue about the Nazi Party, whether it's left or right. That's all stupid because it's neither. And you can't, they use some leftist tactics, the propaganda, the big lies, things like that. So, I mean, there are some tactics that the left are using. But anyways, let's,
if you want to find out what the Democratic strategy has been, all you have to read is The Prince by Machiavelli. He lays out, and it's a very simple book. It's only, like 50 pages. It's not a very big book at all. It's more
maybe read like 1984.
Well, that's where he got it. He went through Machiavelli and brought it to the extreme from what he saw during World War II. But
right.
Machiavelli spells it out on how to control a nation with, you need a strong military, or you need a puppet running things, but you need what's known as good religion. And the good religion that they've tried to push on us is wokeism. They tell you it's not a religion, but that's bullshit. It is a religion. It just doesn't believe in anything other than yourself. Machiavelli, yes. That's not how you spell it. It's close. It's M-A-C-H, but it's called The Prince. And it was a letter that Machiavelli wrote to the prince on how to rule and what he needed to do in order to rule his country. Because he was supposed to provide a gift of something and everybody else had money and stuff, and he didn't have that. Anyway, the good religion the Democrats have been trying to push on us is this wokeism, and it's not a good religion, which is why it's collapsing.
Right.
Hitler threw out the Catholic Church. He hated the Catholics because they had too much power. And he made what he called the German Evangelical Church the national religion. He threw out the Lutherans, he threw out the Catholics, all this other stuff. They had no influence in government whatsoever. His church that he invented, the German Evangelical Church, was the good government that Machiavelli told him to put in place. And It was, part of the whole indoctrination process.
Right. But see, leftists, when they gloss over history, they go, oh, Hitler, evangelical. They only see those key words and they go, oh, Trump has something to do with evangelicals. Anyways, let's keep moving. We got a lot to cover. So a lot to cover in so little time. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. So after she talked about all of that, she goes on to say, on Saturday, the Trump campaign then released a list of 29 people set to be on stage at the rally. Notably, the list was all MAGA Republicans, including, and then she goes and lists like J.D. Vance, Stefanik, Giuliani, RFK, Tucker Carlson, all these people. And then she said, Libby Dean of News Nation noted that none of the 7 Republicans running in New York's competitive House races were on the list. When asked why not, according to Dean, Trump's senior advisor, Jason Miller, said, the request for people to speak is quite extensive. Asked if the campaign had turned down anyone who asked to speak, Miller said no. So I want to cover that real quick, before we go too far. So if they asked this guy, I'm not sure what her true point was this. I think it was on what was her true point? If there's 7 people in New York that are running for office, but yet the spokesperson for Trump said that Miller said no, that they didn't turn anybody down to speak. So does that mean that the 6 Republicans running for New York, they didn't take advantage of this opportunity? And are they rhinos? Maybe I don't know, but I'll be honest with you. To me, that's a moot point. Like, I don't really give a shit about this point of the letter, to be honest with you. It's like, who cares if other people didn't show up in New York or not? Like other candidates in New York. Donald Trump could have invited them maybe, but he's trying to get all of his, main speakers up there and really, talk about things. He's trying to win, period, because he knows that down ticket, people are going to vote Republican down ticket. So... Yeah. And
didn't earlier in the day, wasn't he on Joe Rogan? I mean,
yeah, he did. Joe Rogan, I think it released like Friday or some shit. So yeah, I mean, it was awesome. I enjoyed it.
He's got shit to do.
Well, I'm just saying, they were making a point in this, why did not, they were pointing out he had all these other people, but yet he didn't have the 6 Republicans running for House seats in New York there. But again, Trump said that they didn't turn anybody down that wanted to speak. So what the fuck's your point?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, and here we go. So as some of you may or may not know, and this is me just telling you guys real quick, the LA Times and Washington Post decided not to endorse the Vice President Kamala, right? And so this is kind of pissed off some people, whatever. Anyways, so she's going to get into that. All right. So she says, meanwhile, the decision of the owners of the Los Angeles Times and the Washington Post not to endorse Democratic presidential candidate Vice President Kamala Harris seems to have sparked a backlash. As will bunch of the Philadelphia Inquirer noted, in a strange way, the papers did perform a public service showing American voters what life under a dictator would feel like. Early October 26th, the Washington Post itself went after Trump backer billionaire Elon Musk with a major story highlighting the information that Musk, an immigrant from South Africa, had worked illegally when he started his career in the U.S. Musk did not have the right to work. in the U.S. When he started his first successful company as part of the Trump campaign, Musk has emphasized his position to undocumented immigrants.
That's a lie.
So, yeah, they've been coming out lately trying to say that Musk was basically an undocumented immigrant. They're trying to also say he may have worked illegally, even if he was documented, blah blah blah. Like this has only been in this last bit of. So this is clearly a hit piece.
Well, clearly she hates African American owned companies.
Yeah. I mean,
that is so racist.
I know. I mean, he is from what, South Africa?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he's contrary to everything. Have you noticed that? He's just breaks all the rules. I mean, he's an African American who's white. He's a complete and utter nerd who's having sex with supermodels.
And when she was talking about, in a strange way, the papers did perform a public service, showing American voters what life under a dictator would feel like. I think that's, again, this is kind of a stupid paragraph because newspapers have been putting out hit pieces and calling Trump Hitler for like, again, the past 8 or 9 years. And
again,
so
using words she doesn't understand.
Well, and the thing is like, okay, so they did a story about life under dictatorship or whatever, but Trump is not going to be a dictator. It's just so stupid. And they're like, well, he said he's going to be a dictator day one. It's like, fuck people.
No, he said he was going to be a dictator for one day.
Yeah, I know. And it was like it's like a half-hearted joking kind of thing like he does.
Yeah.
Because he's like, hey, I'm going to close the border. I'm going to, start fracking, whatever. So it's like, he's basically like, hey, I'm going to get to work on day one and it's going to feel like a dictatorship because I'm going to be laying down some laws. I'm going to lay down some, I'm going to get shit going. But he's not literally going to just be a dictator. And anyways, that's the same fucking rhetoric that pisses me off all the time because they just keep on and keep on and keep on. It's like, really? Like, shut the hell up. It's so stupid. Like
he's going to consolidate the government, and the first thing they're going to say, he's consolidating power. No, not the same thing. He's doing massive layoffs. He's talking as much as 87% of the government being laid off because it's just that fat. That's what Elon did.
There's going to be job creation. He's not going to go in on day one and just fire everybody.
No,
like, it's going to be a process, and those process, some people they're going to get other jobs. They're going to absorb into the economy. There's going to be other opportunity as he gets rid of illegals. I'm tired. That's another thing, Stacey. How frustrating is it when you're constantly hearing people like Donald Trump or the right wing, MAGA wants to get rid of immigration, all this stuff. It's like, quit fucking confusing immigrants with illegal aliens. Okay, that's what they are. They're illegal aliens. I'm tired of the PC shit. They're illegal aliens. They come in here. You know how many? I just talked to a guy who came here from France. He immigrated here from France like 30 years ago, and he loves America. He absolutely loves America. He's worked hard to be a good worker, good citizen, and for him to have people come in here illegally, and then to be handed all these things on a platter. It's like that pisses them off.
Yeah, my next door neighbor came. I moved into this house in 2012. She immigrated here in 2013. It took her 10 years to become a United States citizen. She is one now, but the process that she had to go through in order to become a citizen was arduous and expensive. And at the same time, she sees all these other people coming in and she's like, what the hell? What is going on here? Did I wasted all my time and my effort, and these people get to come in scot-free? What is going on?
Walk in.
Yeah, she
be given a nice hotel.
Very upset by the hoops she had to jump through in order to become a citizen. I mean, she's very grateful for that, but at the same time, it is really unfair for the people who've had to work their ass off in order to become a citizen from another country. And these people just walk in and start taking everything. It's
And not a lot of people even think about shit like this, but you go to like almost any of your colleges that have sports, we recruit tons of foreigners, tons of people, Brazilians, all kinds of people for soccer, tennis, football. We get a lot of people from other countries that come in on scholarships. They get to go to our schools. And then these are like pretty good kids. I mean, these are like they come in, they go to school, they learn how to major in business and doctors and all these things. They do sports. And then what I've personally witnessed is, because my son's a tennis player and we've met a lot of college kids. They were tremendously awesome people. They were amazing and they didn't get to stay. I'm like, are you going to chase the American dream? They're like, I love to, but my visa's up and I got to go back home. It's like they, I know that was my little accent. I don't know, but they got to go back. You know what I mean? And it's like, they don't get to have that. But I mean, if they wanted to cheat, yeah, they could probably just hang around or whatever. But I know one of them that stayed a little too long and he got in trouble. And then they said, hey, you can't even try to come back for 10 years. And he had to go back to Brazil. And that's sad because these were like, that guy in particular was an instructor. He was making money. He was contributing. He was contributing to the economy. He was a potential good citizen. And so we're sending like the good ones back that are trying to follow the rules and play by the rule books. But then all the bad ones are just letting them in and we're handing them shit.
Yeah.
And it's wrong. So, and then the left thinks that the right doesn't care about immigrants and we just want to close up and be some kind of white nationalist or something. And nationalism is not just,
it's
anyways,
basic stuff. The last time a country just let people in was the Roman Empire. They were called the Visigoths. And the Visigoths ended up destroying Rome and destroying the empire. Literally, the fall of Rome became because of unchecked immigration.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is I'm pro-immigration. I am. If you legally want to chase that dream, because this country was founded on immigration, and we have some amazing people that I personally have known and experienced that are from other countries, and they would be great citizens. They love America. And the fact that when they sit there and say, oh, we're blah blah blah, it's like, shut up. We are for legal immigration. It's the illegals that's what's doing a tremendous disservice to all the legal immigrants and everybody in this country, everybody that had grandparents, great grandparents, parents, whoever, ancestors that have came here through legal immigration and worked hard for the American dream. And it's a great disservice to just give illegals whatever they want, and not to mention the great percentage of them that are criminals. They're all criminals technically. Every illegal immigrant's a criminal because they started out by breaking the law.
Yeah.
Period. They got the country by breaking the law, federal law, right? So they're all, illegal. However, we're talking about the really bad ones, right? So, all right, let's kind of move forward on this. I'm trying to get to a lot of debunking tonight. One video, man, to debunk. I bet this probably feels good for you, Stacey, because I know you've been always wanting to talk politics on this show. Like we've always had to kind of restrain ourselves.
Well, yeah, everything comes back to it eventually. It's one of the main philosophies, of all of the philosophies that are out there, the 5.
All right. So she goes on to say that the New York Times has tended to downplay Trump's outrageous statements. But on Saturday, it ran a roundup of Trump's threats in the center of the front page above the fold. It noted that Trump has vowed to expand presidential power, prosecute his political opponents, and crack down on immigration. See, they just said immigration. They didn't say illegal immigration. Anyways, crack down on immigration with mass deportations and detention camps. It went on to list his determination to undermine the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, use the U.S. military against Mexican drug cartels in potential violation of international law, and use federal troops against U.S. citizens. It added that he plans to upend trade with sweeping new tariffs that will raise consumer prices and rein in regulatory agencies.
Can I start off with the
Yeah, go ahead.
political opponents thing? Do I think Trump is going to do that? No, he's going to pussy out. He's not going to do that. He's going to, for the best of the nation, we're just going to move forward, blah, blah, blah. He's going to do that again. He could have done it with Hillary Clinton, thrown her in prison. She deserved it. She earned it. Let's just move on for the better of the nation. Blah, blah, blah. Do I think he should? Absolutely. You throw Steve Bannon in jail because he, gave Congress the finger. Throw a 90-year-old woman on January 6th who had diabetes and she was in a walker. Throw her in prison for 10 years because she was walking through the Capitol. The doors, the police opened for her. She was walking around. Throw her in prison for 10 years? Yeah. Political prisoners have been thrown in jail throughout this entire administration. They keep doing it over and over and over again. They need to taste it. They need to know what that feels like. So if they don't cross that line anymore, saying these are the consequences, you cross the Rubicon, you need to go to prison. You can't just have a vendetta against a whole group of people, let's say 50% of the country, because you got butthurt. That's not how this works. You need to taste that butthurt in a real good way. So.
Right. Well, I would mildly disagree. And what I mean by that is, Stacey, is that I agree with you. There does need to be some coming together. We do. I think one thing I agree with Trump is when he says that success will bring us together. And I think that that's true. Like if he gets in there and he starts doing his energy policies and we start seeing the price of gas and we start seeing the cost of goods come down because of gas, energy is the big key, right? Mm-hmm. So when he gets in there and starts doing this and maybe even get rid of these wars, I think a lot of people will finally say, okay, maybe we're a little wrong. Maybe their cognitive dissonance will start to clear up. Maybe their TDS will start to clear up a little bit. Maybe not. Who knows? But I think in the long run, things could taper off a little bit. But when it comes to political opposition, here's how I look at it. If you are just some a-hole on TV going, I don't like Trump, screw him, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, you're not doing anything illegally. But if you are a political opponent that is out there manipulating and doing bad things, you should be investigated. And if we find that you legitimately broke laws, you should face those consequences, just like any other citizen. That's all I'm asking for. I'm asking for, and I think we'll see committees, probably headed up by Jim Jordan or somebody, and we're going to see some committees, and they're going to start to investigate certain things. Now, I don't want them to over-investigate. I don't want this to be like a circus. I just want what's fair. And then that goes for anybody. If you break the law, then be fair. Steve Bannon gave Congress the finger. Mm-hmm. Well, so did Garland. Garland gave him the finger and nothing happened to him.
Exactly.
But Bannon went to prison. So all I'm saying is, if Bannon goes to prison, then Garland should go to prison. It's only fair. It's the law. The law is supposed to be blind. It's supposed to have the justice, right? The scales of justice.
Yeah. Well, the problem is the bureaucratic machine has been engaging in propaganda. The government, it is since the Eisenhower days, has been banned from engaging in propaganda against the American people. They can do propaganda in other countries, Air America and, all of that all around the world. We can broadcast all kinds of American propaganda in China and Cuba and stuff. But against Americans, it is illegal. And the government in the last 4 years, actually since the Trump administration too, they turned it on Trump. The bureaucracy has turned the propaganda against the American people. They've been doing it subtly since Eisenhower. The whole idea of the term conspiracy theory was in the CIA, cooked up idea that they baked into the American psyche. That was propaganda. The conspiracy theorist, how to discredit people.
You could do entire shows of just going out and pointing out what is a conspiracy theory and now proving to be correct.
Yeah,
it's crazy how many conspiracy theories were like, oh, that's just the right being conspiracy theorists, and yet they keep coming true.
Yeah. Well, the propaganda that the bureaucracy has been inflicting on the people need to be held accountable for that, because they've been breaking the law on that at every level of government. And those people who've been engaging in it need to go to jail.
Okay, so let's move forward. Again, lot to cover. Now, this is going to be a little bit of what we just talked about, but she said on Sunday, the front page of the New York Times opinion section. So remember, this is an opinion section.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times people read these opinion things and they think that there's some kind of factual news, even though the factual news stuff is wrong half the time. But now you have an opinion piece. So they did say in the opinion section, but it says in giant capital letters, Donald Trump says he will prosecute his enemies, order mass deportations, use soldiers against citizens, abandon allies, play politics with disasters. Believe him. So again, this is a lot of stuff taken out of context. I think you and I have already talked about it. So I'm not going to get too much into that. Okay, let's look at this, and I'm going to let you respond to this. This is a small paragraph. So on CNN's State of the Union this morning, host Jake Tapper refused to permit Trump's running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, to gaslight viewers. Vance angrily denied that Trump has repeatedly called for using U.S. military against Americans, but Tapper came with receipts that proved the very things Vance denied.
Well, the military has just been given permission by the Biden administration to kill Americans in support of local law enforcement. So in the event of an uprising or any kind, Commodus Posse Act of 1863, I think it is, 18 something or other, bans the military from engaging in any activity on American soil against the American people. That has been suspended, essentially. How? I don't know. But the Pentagon recently came out and said that part of their new policy is to use deadly force in the event that law enforcement deems it necessary. The thing is, we are doing that are Democrats.
Yeah, and we know it's bullshit. And like you said, the Democrats have already, and I believe there was
that's in preparation of the election, by the way. That happened last week. They're doing it as a matter of preparation.
We're gonna get into something about that too. Let me tell you, we're gonna get to some shit. I hope you're not going anywhere anytime soon. We're gonna get to some shit. I wanted to kind of bring this up. Real quick. I think what you might be talking about, I think it was Defense Directive 5240.01.
Right.
All right. Anyways, I wanted to kind of throw that out there to you guys if you wanted to look it up yourself or whatnot, just so we can try to be a little thorough, right? Okay, so let's move on. A lot to go. Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden began in the early afternoon. The hateful performances of the early participants set the tone for the rally. Early on, comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, who goes by Kill Tony, delivered a streamingly racist set. He said, for example, there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now, and I think it's called Puerto Rico. He went on, and these Latinos, they love making babies too. Just know that. They do. They do. There's no pulling out. They know that. They come inside just like they did to our country. Sorry, it's fucking funny. Hinchcliffe also talked about black people carving watermelons instead of pumpkins. So
he's a roast comedian. That's what he does.
He's a fucking comedian. It don't matter. He's a fucking comedian, folks. it's look, you could argue and say, should you have had a roast comedian at this event? Probably not. Like, even I can say, look, probably wasn't the best idea. Okay, there's some other comedians that are very like politically comedic funny that can kind of draw both sides into some funny shit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that probably would have been better. And I like Tony Hinchcliffe as a roast comedian. Like, there's hardly anybody right now. I'm not talking about in history, because you had like Don Rickles and some people that were like fucking great roasters. But Tony Hinchcliffe is one of the most modern good roasters. Okay. Mm-hmm. So he is funny. Now, again, was that maybe not the greatest thing? Now, I will also say this. He's actually very much about recycling, like in the environment. Believe it or not, Tony Hinchcliffe, and from what I'm told, he's very much into, recycling, things like that. And he was actually very aware of the problems with Puerto Rico with their landfill. They don't recycle there. And
that's
been
reported in the media for years.
Right.
They've had this problem. So when Trump was actually in office, he gave them $97 million to fix the problem, and the government stole it.
Right.
The local Puerto Rican government stole it and kept it for themselves.
And that's important what you said. Okay, so the speakers who followed Hinchcliffe called Vice President Kamala Harris the Antichrist and the devil. They called former Secretary Hillary Clinton a sick son of a bitch. And she is. And rallied against fucking illegals.
No lies have been said yet, so.
Right. They insulted Latinos generally, Black Americans, Palestinians, and Jews. Trump advisor Stephen Miller's claim that America is for Americans and Americans only directly echoed the statement of Adolf Hitler that Germany is for Germans and Germans only. So, again, it's just so stupid. I mean, first of all, the Antichrist, I mean, these are all stabs and jokes. All right. Yeah. We're going to do some name calling. They're calling us names. We're calling them names.
Well,
there's some truth.
Biblically speaking, that was wrong. She's not the Antichrist.
Yeah, you have to be loved by everybody to be the Antichrist.
Exactly. She fits the description of the Whore of Babel.
I saw a pretty good one, but anyways, I'm
serious on that one. To give the description in the Book of Revelations, the Whore of Babel, which fits that.
Right. Trump took stage about 2 hours late, prompting people to stream toward the exits before he finished speaking. He hit his usual highlights, notably undermining Vance's argument from earlier in the day by saying that indeed he believes fellow Americans are the enemy within. Again, this whole the enemy within thing, this is so stupid. This is taken out of context. If you've ever listened to Trump and different things, he does talk about the enemy within, but he's talking about these elite Democrats and people that are illegally doing things and undermining our fair process and fair elections.
That's what he's talking about. DC swamp.
Right. He's talking about the swamp. He's not talking about the average Americans. Hell, he's not even talking about the leftist Americans, because he tries to reach across the aisle on that. I love how they don't like to see when he tries to reach across the aisle multiple times. When he was president, and I point out this example. He would try to reach across the aisle and he tried to work with the Democrats. And he did when he did one of his State of the Union addresses. He talked about when he said that the Black American unemployment was at a record low. Everybody on the right, all the Republicans, was clapping. They panned over to the Democrats. And what's more importantly, they focused on the Black caucus.
Mm-hmm.
And they just sat there with their fucking arms crossed, not even fucking clapping. They couldn't even give him that. Like, they couldn't even be like, okay, Black Americans are working more. awesome. We should at least give him some type of applause, even if there was a golf clap. It could have been like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But they just sat there with that look on their face. They're just like, ooh, fucking Trump. Oh, fucking Trump. And that's what I'm like. And he's trying to reach across to them. He was trying to be and that's what I'm saying. It's so stupid.
Well, they can't give him anything. He did the most historic thing in probably 80 years. Forget he brought peace to the Middle East and for the first time in 2,000 years, but he walked across the DMZ from South Korea to North Korea by himself. No security, no bulletproof vest, all by himself. Walked, his trench coat was open, walking against the wind like Neo in the Matrix, dragging his giant brass balls behind him. And they showed pictures of Kim Jong-un on the other side. He was all slack-jawed. He was like, he couldn't believe that Trump was doing this all by himself. I don't understand Korean, but I'm sure he turned to the guy next to him. He's like, you believe this motherfucker's doing this?
Right? Oh, I know. And that's what's funny is like, he did these things and like, so just to put it in context, like when they say it'll be a cold day in hell. Well, we used to have other sayings too, like when people would say, oh, when pigs fly, right? Or, oh yeah, when there's peace in the Middle East, blah, blah, blah. That was a saying. I don't know if some of you remember that, but that used to be a same phrase as a cold day in hell and when pigs fly, because nobody thought you could achieve any kind of peace in the Middle East. It was one of those sayings. It literally was that. And Trump was able to achieve this right before the whole COVID thing went down, everything else. He was achieving that. And was it going to be perfect? Probably not. It wasn't going to be perfect, but he had everything lined up, the Abraham Accords. It's just, it's a shame. And then here we go. As soon as Biden and them get in the thing. All right. But anyways, let's keep rolling, man. We got a lot. I told you this was like a really big thing. So, so again, they talk about, okay, it says, but Trump perhaps gave away the game with his inflammatory language and with an aside seemingly aimed at House Speaker Johnson, quote, I think with our little secret, we are going to do really well with the House, right? Our little secret is having a big impact. He and I have a secret. We will tell you what it is when the race is over, Trump said. And then they say, it seems probable, even that Trump was alluding to putting in play the plan his people tried in 2020. That plan was to create enough chaos over the certification of electoral votes in the states to throw the election in the House of Representatives. There, each state delegation gets a single vote. So if the Republicans have control of more states than the Democrats, Trump could pull out a victory, even if he had dramatically lost the popular vote. Since he has made virtually no effort to win votes in 2024, this seems his likely plan.
Yeah.
Can we just say how stupid that last sentence was? Since he has made virtually no effort to win votes in 2024. Are you fucking kidding me? All the fucking rallies? Anyways. Yeah, he's just out there.
Like he got shot in the face or anything.
Right.
The only way that can happen, yes, the system is in the Constitution set up for the House to actually do that, but only if there is a tie in the Electoral College and the deciding vote has to come down to Congress. The way that they have set up the Electoral College.
Yeah, but I think they're talking about the alternate electors thing, like when the J6 stuff happened. Remember, and they were wanted Mike Pence to invoke the other electors. And then J6 happened, and then they came back after that same day, by the way, folks. It was so horrible, but they came back the same day. And then they were like, well, I was going to protest the results. Some of these turncoats were like, I was going to protest the results. But now in light of this situation, we're going to go ahead and certify the election or whatever. Anyways, it was so stupid.
Yeah. Well, again, the Electoral College has to be in a tie. they just can't throw it to Congress if Trump doesn't get the Electoral College. It doesn't work that way.
Okay, so, and yeah, the whole plan about chaos and like, look, people, you need to quit because first of all, J6, he didn't start. It was not an insurrection. There was some bad actors. There was a lot of tension back then, and I'm not going to sit there and claim that the right people that were in DC around the Capitol, I'm not going to say that they were in the right. Some of them were bad. Like there was some bad actors. Now you can argue and speculate in theory that maybe some of them were FBI plants, maybe some of them were BLM plants, or Antifa plants. Whatever you want to say, it don't matter. Some people acted up. They opened the doors up. They let everybody in. That we already got evidence of it. And people with fanny packs were fucking walking around the Capitol, and now they're serving time. Yeah. And then Ashley Babbitt was shot. This whole thing about people were killed. Okay, Ashley Babbitt was killed. One of the police officers died like the next day from like natural causes, and then they say, well, it was stress related from the incident, whatever. I mean, again, it was blown out of proportion. Anyways, even if you set aside J6, the Democrats have contested elections. Everybody contests elections, almost every big election. That's just how it is. But when Trump does it, all of a sudden he's election denier. So, anyways, we could get into that whole thing, but that could take up a whole episode talking about the 2020 election.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but they said for him to do that, he needed at least a plausible close election, or at least to convince his supporters that the election has been stolen from him. So
Democrats are doing that themselves.
So they're trying to say that the rally hurt that plan. Now, as far as like, look, did Madison Square Garden hurt the Trump supporters? I doubt it.
No,
I doubt it. Most people, if you're on the Trump train at this point, or you're going to vote for Trump, most likely, especially even if you're Puerto Rican, like there's a lot of Puerto Ricans that's been coming forward saying, hey, that joke was fucking funny. Like they get it. And then some of them are like, probably not. A lot of the ones that don't like the joke probably are Democratic anyways. I really doubt it's going to truly sway the election in that sense. They're going to try to spin it that way.
Biden turned around and nullified it anyway. That's actually been grabbed.
Yeah. And yeah. I want to bring that up too a little later because, like I said, now that we've opened the politic door tonight, I'm getting shit off my chest. All right. So then she goes on to say that Puerto Rican singer, Ricky Martin shared the clip of, Tony Hinchcliffe saying, this is what they think of us. Jennifer Lopez, has 250 million Instagram, posted Harrison's plan. You post Harrison's plan. That's brave.
Have you noticed that all the celebrities that are endorsing Harris have all been at a P. Diddy party too? And I wonder why that is. They're all endorsing Harris.
The headlines were brutal. Of course, the headlines are brutal. They're always brutal. That's what these leftists don't get. They're like, the headlines were brutal. MAGA speakers unleashed ugly rhetoric at Trump's MSG rally. Read Axios. Political wrote, Trump's New York homecoming sparks backlash over racist and vulgar remarks. Racist remarks and insults marks Trump's Madison Square Garden rally. The New York Trump announced speakers at Trump's rally make racist comments, hurls insults, read CNN. They've been calling this man a racist all this time. Mm-hmm. It's the same shit. They're just finding something else. And they say, oh, here's a rally he did. Let's, I guarantee every rally he goes to, they always try to find something to say, hey, that sounds racist. He's a racist, told you.
Yeah, now they got their panties in a bunch because of the whole, garbage thing from Biden, and Republicans and Trump got in the garbage truck, and how dare he use that against us kind of stuff. And they're really upset because Biden got a lot more traction than the Madison Square Garden thing did.
So we're wrapping this up on this part right here, but the last 3 paragraphs, basically, I'm not going to read them because it's you can read them yourself. It's on Facebook somewhere. Not you, because you don't Facebook. But basically, she talks about. I'm just going to paraphrase it up by saying that the Republicans are backpedaling, and they're saying about the comment of the floating island of garbage. And then they talk about all the clips are spreading, and they talk about how many Puerto Ricans are, like 6 million Puerto Ricans live in the states, and they break down how many is in each swing state. And then they talk about the last paragraph. They talk about in 1939, about 18,000 Nazis rallied. So they talk about the rally. They throw out some stats about there was a crowd of 100,000 anti-Nazis outside, and it took 1,700 police officers to hold them back from storming the venue. So I want to say that, yes, they're going to backpedal, but it's not backpedaling. It's like when something happens and then they say, what's your take on it, Mr. Trump or Trump's campaign? They're going to say, look, and they said, it's a joke. It was a comedian's joke, but we don't share that view. That doesn't reflect our views. Which is fine. That's normal. Like if somebody makes a joke, you're going to say the same thing. You're like, well, it's a joke, it's a comedian, but I'm not, it doesn't mean that that's how I truly feel, and that's all they're doing. Backpedaling would be like if they're just like constantly just keep going backwards and saying, oh, no. And then, this, blah, blah. Anyways, it's not really backpedaling, but again, they want to use that wordage. So that way you're sitting there going, oh, they're backpedaling, huh? Oh,
well, every comedian stood up for the comedian too. Jon Stewart, Joe Rogan, they all stood up for the comedian because they said it was a joke.
Jon Stewart, who has been not good. He's, I used to love Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
Back in the day. And maybe I was, again, moderate and I didn't care much about politics. But his shit was funny. But then he got so lost in the weeds there and got that Trump, that TDS. But to see, like, whenever he does occasionally come out and that spark of like the old Jon Stewart of like, he was on it. He defended Tony Hinchcliffe in a funny way. It was great. It was great. Even Bill Maher, when he has those moments, when Bill Maher comes out and it's like, dude, if they would just finish their red pill journey, they could be so good. They could be so good advocates for this country, even if they still can't maintain some of their liberal views. I mean, you don't have to be fully conservative to vote for Trump, and there's a lot of people that's not, So I want to say that, so I did respond, and I'm not going to go through my response because you might as well just sum up everything I've said tonight. Right. But the person that, so I responded, and the person that sent me that letter, all they did was they say, anything can be explained away if you dig. Okay. And then they say Jan 6th should have been enough for anyone to see what Trump is made of. There are proven facts and circumstances of that day. People were killed. People went to jail. He showed us that he does not give a shit about the foundations of our country or our government. It was just his big boy temper tantrum for being a sore loser. That should have been enough. Now that's the beginning response. Stacey, what would you say to that?
Stop drinking the Kool-Aid, because none of that what you just said is true. Absolutely false. Everything.
Right. And that's the thing. Honestly, if you really, if people could just separate themselves from their fucking Trump derangement syndrome, and they actually dug into the facts of J6, there was a lot of things not in favor of the Democrats. I mean, Pelosi there are some things that she should be held accountable for.
That's going to come out. They're going to continue on with this when the new Congress comes. And they're going to bring all of these people before and testify again. You know, Cheney as well. She's going to have to show why were you destroying evidence of the last committee. That is a federal offense all by itself. They were shredding evidence that they acquired through subpoenas. That's big time no. You cannot do that. And they're going to have to, explain that or go to prison themselves.
Right. And I'm going to try to find this here. I really want to get into this clip. And I don't know if this is going to show. God damn, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it. Can you hear the sound? Is the sound even coming through? Probably not. All right, hold on. Maybe you guys can hear it through my microphone. Hold on. Let me see if I can. All right, let me know if you can hear this.
Can't hear anything.
Hold on.
Nope. Can't hear anything.
You can't hear anything?
Nope.
That's weird. Why did it not come through my microphone? It's coming right. I have my microphone right up to the speaker. All right, hold on. Let me see.
Yeah, Raskin is full of shit too. He has no authority. This whole not certifying the election.
Right. I wanted to play that for people so they didn't think that we were full of shit. But folks, look it up. Look up Jamie Raskin not certifying the election, and in there he talks about that the 14th Amendment, that, and he even said that, come January 6th, that Trump voters are going to be pissed off because when they invoke the 14th Amendment and say that he's not qualified, that they need to have protection, like from basically Civil War protection, like armed, people to protect themselves after they invoke the 14th Amendment for not certifying the election. So
he has to be a majority for that. Democrats have to have a majority in the House of Representatives in order to invoke that, and they're not gonna. They're gonna lose more seats. So he's full of shit. First of all. Second of all, Supreme Court will rule Congress on the 14th Amendment because no one's been convicted of that. The president doesn't qualify, according to the Supreme Court, under the 14th Amendment.
Right. And then he also brings it up in the clip. He's like talking about how the Supreme Court, because they don't know what they're doing or what, I don't know. Like you have. I wish I would have been able to play it. I mean, I could play it, but I probably have to do it where I share it as a. Maybe I have to share the window versus like just the screen. But either way, but yeah, I mean, I just think that's kind of one thing I worry about. I'm not saying that they can do that. I mean, they may try, but it's going to be crazy times. Okay, let me get back to. I wanted to bring up that Jamie Raskin thing and think, see what you thought. Okay, so again, this whole temper tantrum, being a sore loser, that's stupid because Trump had a right to do the whole election thing. And people say, well, he went to court and lost all these things. And they said that, there's no standing. Well, that's because these court cases were ruling, and he did win a lot of cases, but they were going to say, well, 50 votes or 100 votes or 1,000 votes isn't going to matter. And then not only that, but like, then they were saying that he wasn't, he didn't have no standing because it didn't affect, or he wasn't, you know what I mean? It was like the whole voting thing. It was so stupid. So bottom line, you can dig in the weeds if you really want to get in there into the court cases on the 2020 election, but he had a right to do what he did, just like any other politician or anybody else. And J6, again, he had that big rally there, and And we actually, if people didn't always realize this, but when you go back there, there was, oh God, what was it? It was one of the, I want to say it was one of the representatives from Louisiana. It was like a newly elected Trump-backed female, and I think she was going to contest the election. There was a couple of them that were going to stand up and say, "Hey, you know," and then they were hoping to get enough people to where Mike Pence would say, "Hey, we need to look at these alternate electors, blah blah blah, whatever." You know, they were so there was an effort to but this was all legal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then when the J6 happened that day, and Trump had the rally and everything, and he even said, you know, peaceful and you know all that. There was no anger rhetoric, despite what was edited or taken out of context. But when it happened and they came back, it was so weird because the that woman and the few of the representatives that was going to protest all of a sudden were like, well, in light of what happened, we denounce what Trump did. It's like, okay, that's really weird that all of a sudden you knew that Trump was behind this or something. You're like, this just happened a few hours ago. Somebody was shot, and you're just assuming these things. There was not even an investigation done, and then you're going to come back and like it just seemed too convenient. I'm not trying to be conspiratorial, but it's like you were going into this. You said that you were going to stand up for Trump, but then all of a sudden that happens, and then convenient, you're just like, nope, nope, we're just going to move forward. And even Pence was like, yep, we're going to move forward.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of spook type stuff that was happening at that rally. Pipe bomb that was reported. All the surveillance, they have cameras pointing in every square inch of Washington, D.C. They saw a guy put in a pipe bomb. They saw another guy take the pipe bomb, but they never found out anything about the pipe bomb. They turned that into a big thing on the news media and for like 24 hours, and then it disappeared. It was part of evidence, and then that evidence disappeared at the J6 committee. More evidence that was being shredded. The same people that were involved with the Whitmer conspiracy, where the guys were supposed to try and assassinate Governor Whitmer, those guys were at the rally. You know, this was a coordinated thing by the FBI to move people into the Capitol to create the scene.
Right.
They pointed out many people in the video that were FBI spooks.
I think, in all honesty, look, I don't want to spend too much time with J6 because I think that most people get it. I think a lot of people now are finally like, this has been talked about to death so bad. But let me get to this response paragraph next. So then, after the J6 thing, like I just read, this person said, being a rapist should, being a convicted felon should, bring a fraud should, I guess being auto-corrected probably. So being a fraud should, taking part in Epstein crimes against children should, the shit he pulled at Arlington where my grandparents are buried should, constantly mocking and calling people names should, selling Bibles should, anything except what he wants should, which is to be a dictator should. Now I'll save the last bit for after this. So that's a lot. That's a lot to unpack, but let's start at the beginning. Rapist.
Horseshit.
Folks, I mean, he was not convicted of fucking rape. Quit saying it.
No.
You had a woman from 30 years ago with nothing but hearsay. Okay? It's like anybody could have came forward. Now all of a sudden he's a rapist.
They said the same thing about Kavanaugh, that he was, performing orgy trains on, underage girls, when he was in college.
Right.
All of which turned out to be a lie. This crazy woman who literally is a crazy woman. She's living in the woods and doing all kinds of bizarre stuff with painting rocks and living in a house, and it's a shack actually with no electricity. She's literally a crazy person screaming in the woods, and they put her up on a pedestal.
Yeah, I know. It's stupid. Now, convicted felon. Now, I want to say, first of all, I'm going to use your language. I'm going to use convicted felon, even though he has not been sentenced. So technically, he's not convicted. Okay. He was found guilty of blah, blah, blah. All right. But there is appeals and, there's still a process going on. He's getting ready to be sentenced, but that's not the point. Anyways, I'm going to use the language. All right. So I want to sum this up by saying, look, people, the DOJ, just about every department of DOJ has investigated this man tooth and nail, like with a fine-tuned coat. They've been trying to get this man for fucking 8-9 years. Okay. And you're telling me that the best they can do was find some clerical errors. Okay. And which one was a misdemeanor at most, fines. And second of all, they were past statutory limitations. And second of all, they had to use election bullshit to try to convert them into felonies, which of course the Supreme Court just came out and said, no, he was
presidential immunity.
Yeah, immunity. He was immune from that. Presidential immunity. So he was actually wrongfully convicted of those, first of all, or like I said, convicted. He was wrongfully done. But not only that, even if those clerical errors were all legitimately true, which again, there's you can really get into the weeds on this one also. But I'm just saying, the best you're telling me is that some clerical errors are what you're trying to say, oh, he's a felon. He's a felon because of clerical errors. Shut the fuck up. All right. Well, people write bad checks. All right. Doesn't mean they're a fucking bad person sometimes. All right. And I'm not even saying he did that. I'm just saying average person, makes mistakes, whatever. But this is these are clerical errors after all these years of being. And then you want to look at, and real quick, Stacey, I'm going to let you talk. Look at another case, right? Where you're telling me that the confidential records, sorry, but every president, when they leave office, they take fucking records. They have the authority to declassify them, which he did. He had those authority. And you know what? He was cooperating. He had locks on the door. Meanwhile, Biden had him in the garage, and he actually took classified documents as a senator, not even as president or back when he was in Congress. Okay. And he did it for a book deal, which is illegal. He actually broke laws, and they said, man, he's too old to fuck with him.
Yeah.
So again, that's dumb. And that court, that's why he won that case pretty much. And then you had another one where the misvaluation of the property, right? With Mar-a-Lago. And then the court's trying to say that his property was worth 18 million. Shut the hell up. Shut the hell up. You're so stupid. There was no victim. And even the appeals court right now was laughing at the lawyers. They're like, what the fuck are you guys thinking? They're like, this is stupid. There's no victim. And even the banks were like, yeah, we're good. We're happy. Trump paid us back. We're fine. We evaluated everything fine. There was no history. Even the appeals judges were like, there's no history of anything like this ever. This is stupid. And by the end of it, the lawyers were arguing, not Trump's lawyers, the prosecuting lawyers were like, they were actually like trying to tell the judge, like, hey, just don't sanction us. Like that was like some of their closing arguments. That's how stupid they knew. They're like, just look, just don't sanction us, please.
Yeah. Well, I'm still holding that the Mar-a-Lago raid was actually the first assassination attempt. That's when the Washington Bureau of the FBI gave explicit authorization to use deadly force if they received any resistance on the raid, wearing plain clothes. They weren't even wearing FBI gear. They walked in with ARs and sidearms and basically shouted at everybody to get down, identifying themselves at FBI after everybody was already up against the wall.
Right.
If the Secret Service was there at that time, they probably would have resisted, and that's when deadly force would have been used.
Right. So, and you could be right. And the thing is, like, I would just say, look, we don't even have to argue that. We don't even have to speculate that, because just even the merits of the case itself, But yes, I think pointing that out is a good observation. I really do. I think you're right on that. Now let's dig in even deeper here. So being a fraud, I mean, that's a matter of opinion. Like the man, again, has been investigated to the nail. So guys, he's I would argue that with all the investigations, whether you want to agree with me or not, he's probably one of the cleanest fucking politicians we've ever had.
Oh yeah,
Because he's not a politician, and this guy's been raked over the coals on investigation. I guarantee if you were to investigate just as hard with any of these other politicians, yeah, they're gonna have some shit on him.
yeah. Well, if they send him, they're not gonna. But if they send him to any kind of jail time at Rikers or anything, he needs to lean into that. You know, he needs to come out when he gets inaugurated. He needs to come out with freaking cornrows, a neck tat, some gold grill going on. He needs to lean into that.
Then they would say he's racist. Like big surprise there. Epstein crimes.
He was never there.
Yeah, like the whole thing, just because he was on, like, not everybody on a Epstein list. You got to remember there was flight logs, but it wasn't like that type of list. There was different things.
He was never on the flight logs either. He took one picture with Epstein at a party that was at Trump's house. It was his party. Epstein showed up and did one of these, he was really good at like leaning in and putting his arm around people and they'd snap a picture. He did that all the time with as many famous people as he could get to boost his own credibility.
Right. Well, and like I said, regardless, there's not been anything proven anyways. And if you really want to go there, there's more shit about the Democrat Party in Epstein than Trump. So you might, like, there's some things I'm willing to say, you know what? Hey, I'll give you that. I'll give you the Epstein thing. Maybe. I don't know. Nobody truly knows right now. So let's just call that a washout because we got Clinton and all that shit. So let's just call that a wash.
We know because the Epstein list hasn't come out. If he was on that list, that would be on the headline. That would actually be shown the list.
I agree. But I'm just for argument's sake, I'm only conceding that point because I think it's kind of like saying, well, Trump was a liar. Okay, well, Kamala's a liar. So let's not judge him on truth. Let's judge him on action and policies.
Well, even then, I haven't actually caught him in an outright lie. I've caught him using hyperbole. I've caught him exaggerating.
We've got the best economy ever.
Best ever. No one ever had one like us.
Right.
That's hyperbole. That's not lying.
I know, but anyways, I just argument's sake, even if he lied and you caught him in some lies, so what? Kamala lies too. I don't care. Lying, whatever. Who cares? Everybody used to be a joke. Politicians lie, right? So those negate each other. So if both candidates lie, you can't sit there and say, oh, he's a liar, she's a liar. Who cares? Who cares? Next, judge them on policies, judge them on actions. All right, anyways. So the shit he pulled at Arlington, where my grandparents are buried.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it was that whole Arlington thing. God, I knew a little bit about it when I did investigate it. But people have already come out and said, no, like he's not the whole Arlington thing that's been debunked. So that's kind of bullshit. And even like recently, the parents of some of the soldiers that were trying to say that other shit, they came out and they even said, no, that's bullshit. He treated us great and I voted for him. So even the families of soldiers and fallen soldiers and the Arlington stuff, again, the whole suckers and losers comment, if you want to go there, all that stuff, none of that stuff, it's all been debunked. And it was all
Biden just said that. Biden just called them suckers and losers. So actually he called the Democratic leadership suckers and losers.
Right. But that was all from General Kelly, and General Kelly, again, a couple lies. He had, anyways, he was a liar. That's already been debunked. So, constantly mocking and calling people names. Okay, he does mock and call people names. I will give her that. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people keep turning to, like, when they see the images of him doing, like, the gestures, and but again, this was taken out of context. If you go back and watch that actual speech and you listen to everything, he's not mocking disabled in that sense. It's so stupid. Again, things were taken out of context. So, and calling people names. I mean, hello, they've been calling this man Hitler or a Russian spy, a Russian asset. They've been calling this man names and slandering him, libeling him for, again, almost an entire decade. I mean,
Since
come
he
on.
came down the escalator.
Yeah, I mean, are we really gonna? All right, selling Bibles.
And
That's
who
I
cares?
know, right? Out of everything on the list, right? Like selling Bibles. Oh my God.
Scraping the barrel.
I think there was some controversy about that. I'm not going to worry about that too much, to be honest with you, because that's really not a big fucking deal.
Not like he rewrote it.
And then the whole not giving a shit about anything except what he wants, which is to be a dictator. Again, that's an opinion. And again,
She knows what he's thinking.
Yeah, all the evidence shows that he's not trying to be a dictator. I mean, if you probably ask all the politicians, they would probably tell you things that would sound like what they want. They want power and they want dictatorship in a certain way. I mean, it doesn't mean that they're actually literally going to try to be a dictator of the United States of America.
Again, using words she doesn't understand.
And now here we go. Here's the next section. And we're almost done with this section, but this is why these two, that long letter and this shows you a snapshot of that side and what they think. So that's why I wanted to use these as to go through. I know that the GOP is responsible for the border issues they bitch about. I know, hold on. They write the bills, then vote against them as an election tactic. Again, this is a fact. That's what she said. And I might as well just say this part. We all deserve better. It's fucking embarrassing. I agree with one part of that. Yes, it's fucking embarrassing, and we all do deserve better. And Trump is better. We deserve Trump. Sorry. But now I want to say that Stacey, I'll let you handle this GOP border issues. I'll let you start.
The GOP writes bills that they want passed. The Senate kills it, and then the GOP turns around and points to the Senate, saying it's their fault. It didn't happen, and somehow that is the GOP's fault. She's completely mistaken on how Congress actually works. If she actually delved down in how the sausage is made, she'd really get grossed out on how Congress itself is a lot of horse trading that goes on. But when one majority controls it and they got a good speaker to control how the votes happen, they can get some pretty good legislation put together. But they have to get it past the Senate, which is controlled by the opposing party. And it never sees the light of day. So the only thing they can do is bitch about it in the media as a campaign issue. See what they're doing. See what they're doing. They're keeping us from doing all this great legislation that we passed. And
Right.
then, the opposing side says, look, they're just doing this as a political tactic. They don't really care. Well, stay in your lane.
Right. And here's the thing too. It's like, so what happens is Trump tightened up the border and the ICE, immigration control had like a good handle. They had authority. They had border crossing down. They were trying to build more of the wall because there was some wall that was existed, but he was trying to get the expansion of the wall and all that stuff. And of course they pick on Trump with the whole wall thing, but as far as like he did get stopped in his tracks a lot, but he still kept persisting on it. So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until the very end when he was able to finally start making some headway. But regardless, so he had a good handle on the border. If you go to the statistics, you can see that yourself. You can look it up. Biden came in, and if you remember, he was telling people, "Hey, you can come here," and he made Kamala the border czar. That was their words, not ours. People are like, "Oh, they were." There's no official border czar. Well, no, it's not an official title, but that's what he gave her. They gave her a busy. It was a keep her busy job, and saying, "Hey, she's in charge of the border." Well, guess what? The border crossings quadrupled since Trump. In fact, CBS even called her out and said, "Hey, the border crossings have quadrupled since Trump." And she said, "Oh, but we made strides and we cut them in half."
Well, that's still double.
They're still fucking double, you idiot. Anyways, so, but that's fact. You can look that up. She said it on CBS interview. This is why, again, when she was out doing the interviews, people are like, oh my God, like Facebook.
And there's another massive caravan as we speak that's running to the border.
Right. Well, they're all going to try to get in right now. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is, so yes, GOP would put up immigration bills, or the Democrats would say, guys, we're trying to solve the border, but the GOP, they're not letting us approve these immigration bills. Well, yeah, because they're saying, hey, we want to reduce the border, but we also want to give Ukraine $100 million or whatever, $100 billion. It's like they're trying to give away money. They're packaging other shit into the immigration bills. So yes, the GOP's like, we can't do that. We don't want to keep funding these wars and keep adding to our debt, even if it means the border stuff. And not only that, but the border shit that the Democrats were, if you actually read the what they were proposing, it was still allowing for like 5,000 migrants a day or 4,000, something like that a day.
Well, yeah, and mass amnesty for everybody who's here.
Right.
They want to reduce the number of illegals by giving mass amnesty. They won't be illegals anymore.
Right. So you can sit there, and then they would spin it in the news saying, well, the GOP is shooting down immigration bills. Again, this is why people need to do the research. When you hear news about that, you need to look up the proposed bill itself, because you can find all this stuff out there. Mm-hmm. You can find out all the executive actions that Biden passed, even going to whitehouse.gov. There's a certain amount of transparency that they have to put out there. Now, they can manipulate numbers. Perfect example. Everybody was, when they try to fact check Trump about crime is way up. And they were like, oh, actually, sir, crime is down according to blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what, folks? If you dig into crime is down, the FBI, which, was giving us the statistics on crime nationally. Well, when you started looking at it, there was a ton of major cities where crime was way up. And a lot of these were not even reporting their numbers.
Yeah.
Like even in New York, I think they said like only 25% of the police districts was reporting their numbers. So you're only seeing like a quarter of the crime in New York and some of these other big cities. You're only seeing a small sliver into that statistic. So then when they shored up the statistic even more, which they didn't even do all of the police data, but when they added more data in there, guess what? They showed crime really did go up.
Yeah,
so
they revised their numbers, and the numbers went up substantially. Yeah,
Trump was right, but guess what? On the TV at the time, they got exactly what they were set out to do, which was to show that Trump lied. Later on, yes, he turned out to be correct, but again, this is where they're like, Trump lied. The crime is really not up. Blah blah blah. They got their headline. People like this person here that messaged me that they believe it because they glean the headlines, and then they say, oh, Trump was a liar and blah blah blah. Like he said this and he said that. No, he ended up just like the Springfield dogs and cat things. I don't want to get into that. God damn, that's such a fucking wreck. But there's a whole reason from all that shit. And when it turns out, like, yeah, Trump may not have been 100% right, but he was right in general. Because again, he might have over exaggerated some shit. He does that, like you said, hyperbole stuff. He's gonna over exaggerate some things, but guess what? He brought light onto a subject that needed to be talked about, and it became national news because anything Trump says becomes national news. So he brought light to a situation.
Yeah. Well, anybody who's lived in the cities knows that it was all bullshit. They knew that the headlines were the statistics were bullshit because when you have a city like New York, people are relatively used to the occasional mugging, and crime goes up and down and up and down and up and down. Depending on who's running the city, they've just seen a spike, like a hockey stick of crime. Everybody's been robbed, had shit stolen, shit broken. Everyone at some point has been robbed in the last 4 years. They know it's all bullshit. Anna Kasparian, for example, she thought it was all bullshit that what was being said when she got, sexually assaulted. She got mugged, sexually assaulted, went to cry about it, and people called her a liar.
And racist.
And a racist. And she's like, I didn't say the race of the person who sexually assaulted me. Why did you think it was a racist thing?
Right.
They assume, because they're racist, they assume they know who's the one that did it. So she's been red pilled recently because of all of that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say is, like, I know that are people that's undecided at this point, are they going to watch our podcast tonight? Are they going to watch the whole thing? Is even people that are left, maybe they still haven't voted, are they going to watch this and then say, you know what, these guys are correct, and I need to change my ways? And I really doubt it. And most of everything they're going to hear is like, okay, they're just explaining away and blah blah blah. Like they didn't bring hard receipts, things like that. But when I spent the last 9 fucking years researching articles and researching facts, I'm not going to try to summarize 9 years into a couple hours. You really had to be paying attention the whole time. And it's only some of these people that are being red pilled lately. They're the ones that are going back on their own time saying, you know what, this was wrong. Like, this was off. Let me go back and look at this. And then they start backtracking and going, holy shit. And then it's like they just, their whole worldviews start to change a little bit, but they embrace it at least, so I give them props for that usually.
Yeah. Well, Mark Twain once said, a lie can travel around the world before the truth can put its pants on in the morning. So this stuff will come out and people will actually learn. And this is the part that's frustrating, is that it's like, come on, it's right there. All you have to do is look. They are still drinking the Kool-Aid.
Right.
And it comes down to, they're going to have a hard time trying to get through life if they just believe a lot of the bullshit that the news media and the government tells them, which is why there needs to be a purge. One of the things that Trump was trying to do in his last, days in office in the last time was to change all government workers to classify F category, which basically puts them at the service or the pleasure of the president at any time. The union contracts, all that kind of stuff that they have for the government, don't apply. They serve at the pleasure of the president, and which means they can be fired at any time. Right now, it's pretty much the head of the agencies that have that, the cabinet, things like that, where they serve at the pleasure of the president. Even the top brass, I think it's only like 4-star or 3-star generals. but below that, I mean,
Right.
they can't just be fired. They have to be court-martialed or something along those lines.
Well, yeah, especially with the military. I mean, it's a little different, and I understand that. But I'm so I
He
mean,
wants to change the upper management, not just the one guy who runs the department, but all the upper management, the bureaucracy itself. And that's what Elon's going to be doing. He's going to be gutting, and probably even closing certain departments altogether, like Department of Education, because it's useless.
well, and I don't know how, like, it just sucks that the media created such divisiveness and this TDS, because any other time in history, think about how cool, just if people could step back out of their TDS for a second and just think to themselves, how cool is it that you got like Trump, you got RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, Vivek, Ramaswamy. I mean, you got some people that are working for him in some capacity and then are going to end up working in the administration. And even if you don't like, because RFK was still liked by a lot of people, even on the right, because you may not agree with some of his more liberal stuff and things like that. But when it gets to health and big pharma or the food stuff, he lights up. He lights up, man. That's his wheelhouse. And somebody like that, and even Tulsi Gabbard and some of her stuff, being a veteran and things like that. There's some really good things about her, even though she's coming around on gun control. So she's getting more and more right. So, and she just now said, hey, she's a Republican. But if you just think about this dream team of people, that, I mean, this how cool is that?
Yeah, I agree. Tulsi is going to be president one day. She's probably going to be the first woman president. If Kamala doesn't turn around and invoke the 25th on Biden before, because I still think she's going to do that. Even if she loses, she's going to invoke the 25th and seize power and become president. That's what I think. Because Biden essentially just screwed her over and over with him doing stuff to campaign for her that turned into a massive gap every single time, sucking the wind out of her sails.
Now, so we somebody you brought up earlier, Nate Silver, and then we got that other guy. What the fuck is his name? He's like that. They call him like the Nostradamus guy, whatever. And he's still, and he's still sticking to his thing about Kamala winning. Nate Silver's kind of flip-flopped a little bit. He's kind of saying that Trump, it looks like he's having the edge, blah, blah, blah. But here's something I want to bring up. This may or may not encourage people. So this is a Gallup, right? And what I want to talk about is, since the 1950s, this has actually been accurate. So, and here's the thing: all they're really doing is they're going around and asking people, "Hey, what is your biggest problems? Like, what is your biggest concerns? And then which party you think is going to handle that?" And that has actually been predicting the winner since like the 50s. All right. And if you look here, you'll see in 2024, right now, winning parties to be determined. And guess what? Economy and immigration are the most important problems. And right now, they have Republicans favored by 5 points to win, because this is what the people are saying. They believe the Republicans can handle their concerns. 2020, they said the Democrats, because the people's biggest problems at time of election was COVID-19, and they thought the Democrats could handle it better. So therefore, Biden won. See? 2016, economy and the election. They said the Republicans. Same thing, economy. People believed in whatever party that the people believed could handle it better than the other party, they ended up winning. So for some reason, 2000 is not available. whatever. But
well, that was the Gush and Bohr thing.
right. But I just wanted to say, if you want a little bit of encouragement, right now, Gallup is saying that there is a 5-point advantage on the economy, immigration, potentially, predicting maybe a Republican victory. So I just wanted to point that out a little bit again, because I think we don't want to jinx anything, but I think maybe some people might want some type thing, a little more feel good stuff. So, anyways, I just been keeping this map here, just in case we talk about it. But yeah, I think right now, again, even looking at this map, I think there's a lot to be favorable. Stacey, how would you feel? Like, what would go through your mind if, come like December, we find out the winner? Because I doubt we're gonna find out.
Oh no, we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out as soon as they call Texas.
But no, I mean, okay. So whenever they call the election, what if Kamala wins? Like, what's going to go through your head, and like, what's your mental state at that point?
Well, first of all, it's going to be, where were they cheating at? Because the vibe and the feel, the overall sentiment. I mean, even in 2016, it wasn't like this. People weren't in the streets and having yard signs saying Trump, 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 Trump. They weren't having parades with, up and down the street with trucks on lifters and boats and things with big Trump stuff. I mean, It was, basket of deplorables, that kind of stuff was being said. And there was a lot of shaming. And a lot of people really did, hunker down and just went into the voting booth. The big thrust by the Antifa crowd was, punch a Nazi. So anybody who had a Trump hat on, they were getting punched in the street. I mean, that kind of thing was common. It was a massive voter intimidation shadow campaign.
Right.
2020 was the same thing. This time around, people aren't taking it.
Right. But 2016, they didn't do much of a shadow campaign because they didn't. I think they honestly believed that Clinton was going to win. I think they did just enough media manipulation, just enough. They pulled the normal cards like they do in previous elections, where they had the media sort of like boosting, and they had pop culture sort of boosting Clinton. They believed in that certain that hubris, or that they were like, Clinton's going to win. There's no way Trump's going to win. And when America gave this the system the big middle finger, which was Donald Trump, then they were like, oh shit. And then all of a sudden, immediately it turned into another gear. That's when the Russia. That's when they cranked it up a notch, and then they never stopped. They just keep cranking it up more and more and more. So 2020, you're right. There was a shadow campaign. They did the rules just enough, and they changed the procedures, and they played a procedural game. And unfortunately, the GOP was like, well, let us be honorable. Let us stand back to back with our pistols and walk 10 paces, turn around and shoot. And they were like, no, go ahead and start pacing. And then they just turned around and shot us in the back. It don't matter. Like they didn't play. And again, whether you want to say they cheated, whatever language, it doesn't matter. They outfoxed us. And just like when my friend told me, he stayed home 2020. He thought we had the bag. So you take some people staying home, and you take the procedure game of going out ballot harvesting, and in Pennsylvania, when they broke their own constitutional rules, Texas tried to call them out. Supreme Court was pussies and said, oh, we're not going to get involved in this, like this whole Pennsylvania thing, even though they should have, because they violated their own constitution, but it was never upheld. So no matter what, in the end, they took the rules, whether they altered some of the rules, but they took the rules and they said, we're going to go out and and they outplayed the GOP. They outplayed the Republicans.
Yeah. Well, one group was playing checkers, the other was playing chess.
Right. And unfortunately, this was the time when we were just playing checkers, trying to be honorable. And on top of that, you had COVID-19. Now, again, you could argue that was part of their chessboard.
Yes.
But COVID-19, and like you saw in the Gallup poll, that was the number one thing on people's minds. And they thought that the Democrats could handle it better. So
it wasn't called the pandemic for nothing.
So I think a lot of people right now are afraid of another 2020. Like we're all going to feel good. And then come, that time, I honestly hope that Trump wins the popular vote.
Yeah, me too. Because it'll put the woke religion into the back burner at that point.
Right. If I'm already seeing the language, like I'm already seeing the lefties right now, and they're saying, yeah, I'm pretty much bracing for a Trump victory. They're saying like he's pretty much going to win the electoral college. And like they're already making it seem like he's going to win on like technicalities, basically, but it's not the will of the people. So I hope he does get the popular vote. Also because it's going to show, yes, the will of the people have spoken. But again, they don't understand how the popular vote works. So again, when you got these heavily dense populated areas that are trying to speak for all the rural areas, that's not fair. When you have LA and some of these like super heavy blue areas.
Yeah, well, Illinois is that way. Illinois is Chicago dictates what the rest of the state is. The rest of the state is all rural farmer dudes.
Right.
It is very, very red outside of Chicago, even in the suburbs. Very,
that's what used to throw me off. I'd always see Illinois and be like, what the fuck? Why is Illinois always blue? And I was like, oh yeah, Chicago. Shit.
Well, that may be changing this year. They really are having a hard time keeping track because the people in Chicago are pissed. All the immigrants have come into Chicago and replaced a lot of the black people in their neighborhoods while they're staying at all of these really nice hotels on Michigan Avenue, and all the money is going to them, and nobody in Chicago's getting the benefits of anything. They're pissed. They're getting ready to overthrow their mayor and the local government there. So I'm not convinced that this year that Chicago is going to go blue. I really, regardless of what they're saying in the polls, I think people are going to walk in and start voting a different way.
And I really think like you said, you're the one that brought it up, so I'll give you credit. But I was also thinking the same, that I think Virginia here could go red.
Yeah.
I really do. I think Virginia could go red this year.
And the only reason Virginia is even in the blue area is because of DC. Everything else in Virginia is red. Washington, D.C., the Beltway, all those people live there, and they turn the state blue.
Right, like Illinois. But I will say that I remember in 2020, I remember them saying, somebody brought it up, and they said, wow, Virginia was actually tighter than we expected. Mm-hmm. But it still went blue. But I remember they said in 2020, it was very close. So that makes me think that when Youngkin went to paper ballots this year, and with everything going, I think you could be right. We could be seeing Virginia as a swing state, and that would be interesting. It would be interesting to see it happen. Again, I don't know. Wait, yeah, they have it as they have it.
Yeah. Well, if
so,
we get Virginia, we get Pennsylvania, we get Michigan, we get Wisconsin, because Virginia is the furthest left of all of those. And if it turns red, everything else is toast.
I mean, yeah. Interesting. I wonder if we're gonna have any other upsets that we're not even thinking about.
Minnesota.
Maybe Minnesota.
Yeah. That would be a kick in the balls, wouldn't it? What,
Well,
no balls, Walls. He's the governor there.
Walls is so cringe. So cringe. That dude is so cringe.
But he's so masculine.
Yeah. And I would say for those of you that tuned in late to this, you really need to go back and watch this. We covered a lot of debunking on the whole Trump opinions and stuff like that. It's just that I think like people got so caught up, they're so hell bent on trying to prove how bad and evil Trump is, orange man bad. And it's like you've pounded the pavement so much. You've pounded the pavement so much for this shit. And it's like, come on. Like, it's gotten so old. The whole Nazi thing, it just gets old. And people do not want to be called Nazis just because, again, because somebody wants to vote for Trump, you may not agree with them. All of a sudden, you're a Nazi, you're extreme right, you're MAGA and all this other stuff. And then they talk about violence and all this other crap. It's so stupid. And then God forbid, like I know that the one person I was debating, we got to a point where, and I don't bring it up a lot but I have friends that are gay. I have friends that are minorities, black, whatever. And of course, whenever as a white person you say that, they go, well, does a guy have a black friend? They turn around and make it seem like you're doing this white guilt thing or this white thing. But I only pointed out when the circumstances, as context, because sometimes you have to. Like, I have friends that are black or whatever. People don't know, but I had a second family that was black, in my opinion. Like I called them aunt and uncle. They were best friends to my grandparents. And I was proud I loved going over their house and I felt like part of the family. Like I said, I called them aunt and uncle, you know what I mean? And their kids were like older than me, but they were like cousins to me. I never think differently. But the point is like, yes, I see color. We all see color. We're not stupid. You can't unsee color. I don't care about people's choices or whatever they decide. Like if they tell me they want to be gay, if it's a choice, if it's not a choice, I don't care. I really don't care. My whole thing is like being assholes. Like if you're an asshole, I don't care what you are. I really don't. If you're cool, you're cool. Like I don't care what you want to do. And that's the way the world should be. Mm-hmm. Like just be nice to each other. Who cares who cares about who you want in your bedroom? I really don't care. And as far as skin color, again, you don't choose that. We're all born how we are. We don't really choose that. So anyways, I pointed out in the debate, and they're just like, oh, you said that. But again, I only use that because I have friends that are gay and voting for Trump. They're Trump supporters. But I don't sit there and go around and say that all the time. But if the conversation comes up where they're like, they try to act like if you're LGBTQRA or whatever, you have to vote Democrat. It's like they're trying to pin Trump up against anything minority and that only white people vote for Trump. And that's so stupid.
That's because they're racist. They're the racist ones, and they're trying to project their own racism on you. And it's a malfunction. They need to come to terms with the fact that they're racist. I mean, Babylon Bee has been great. I don't know whether you subscribe to that or not. But Babylon Bee has been. They have this one headline where it's like they have this big broken mirror, and the headline is "Man broke mirror trying to punch a Nazi."
No, they have some great shit. Like they do have some funny as hell shit. Like,
yeah, I love Babylon Bee.
Oh yeah, their headlines are just so great. Yeah, like they're fucking funny. And like I said, you have to have a sense of humor in this world. And that's the problem, is like these leftists, they don't understand some of this humor. That's why they suck at memes. You know, they're always trying to meme, and it just comes off as mean. You know, it might be funny to them, but even some of their own memes, it's like they're not, they think they're being funny, but then it's like it's just not true, and it's so stupid. It's like, oh my god, this is now there were some pretty good McDonald's memes, you know, when Trump came out, but unfortunately, the good ones that the left came out with actually were pretty good, and didn't help. They actually helped humanize Trump,
Yeah.
you know. And it's like everything they touch, it just backfires. It's fucking funny. And so that's why I wanted to bring that up again, because you brought it up. So I said I would come back to it. So I don't want to leave you hanging. But the whole garbage comment. So Biden, you know, comes out, basically says the only garbage I see is like Trump voters, Trump supporters. And no, they put the apostrophe in there when they tried to do the official dictation. You know, the White House, they put the apostrophe, trying to make it seem like he was talking about Tony Hinchcliffe's comment. No,
Right.
he called Trump supporters garbage. You can look at the inflection in his voice. There's a such thing as inflections, right? And when that's why they tell you not to talk in upwards inflections, because you don't know if somebody's done talking or if somebody's done talking. You know, there's a downward inflection. So you know when it's at the end of a sentence. And he said, Trump supporters, downward inflection. You know, that's it. And then they try to make it some run-on sentence by adding an apostrophe and, you know, trying to show some possessive. It doesn't even make sense. But the bottom line is he called Trump supporters garbage. And then what does Trump do? Just like with the deplorables and any other comment, they lean into it, and Trump's out there in a garbage truck. You know, Vivek's out there, you know, doing garbage stuff. It's great. I love it.
Well, the thing of it is that wasn't even his idea. Steven Crowder came out right after that because he was doing some live stuff, and they did it in the middle of his live. And he's like, if Trump doesn't get into a garbage truck in the next 24 hours, I'm going to be pissed. And then boom, he goes to a garbage truck. I mean, it was totally on Steven Crowder to, you know, say that out loud.
Sure. And maybe it is. And maybe it is. I can't deny that. But I bet if I had to guess, I would say from Trump's perspective, it came from Barron.
That's probably where Barron got it.
Because Barron, I bet he's out there, and Barron seemed, because I think he was the one that did suggest some of these different podcasts. You know, I think Vivek also. Vivek and Barron, because Vivek was doing the podcast stuff, and it seemed like once Vivek dropped out of the race and started supporting Trump, and then Trump was like, hey, he's going to be advising me on stuff, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, it seemed like shortly after that, Trump started doing a lot more of the younger type stuff. So I think between Vivek and Barron, because I think even Trump did bring up, you know, Barron talking about having to go on, like, was it Aiden Ross or whatever, things like that. So I think that there's a combination of Aiden Ross and Vivek feeding Trump, like, hey, here's the cool thing to do. Go on this, go on Joe Rogan, go on these things. And I think you're right. Maybe Steven Crowder probably mentioned it. I'm sure somebody, you know, I'm sure the Trump campaign is monitoring these things. Like I said, maybe Barron, maybe Vivek, whoever, and they're going to tell Trump, hey, man, Crowder was saying, dude, you need to get on a fucking garbage truck. You know?
Have you seen how tall Barron is?
I heard he's like what is he, like 6 inches taller than Trump?
Yeah, he's almost 8 foot tall. He stands. Trump is 6'4". He's a tall guy, and he towers over his father. I mean, he makes Shaq look like a midget. I don't know how that took place, but whatever Ukrainian blood, you know, got into his DNA, man, that is like, he's giant. That is a big man.
Well, even my youngest son, you know, he's like 17 now, and he's like 5'9", almost 5'10", and I'm 5'6", and his mom's like 5'4", 5'3". So, it just sometimes, and I think maybe some parts of my grandfather's side, but even my real father wasn't, real tall or anything either. So, I mean, there's just, you know, sometimes it happens, man. And so, which I'm grateful for because my son's a tennis player and I didn't want him to be 5'6" trying to play tennis. I was like, God, I hope he somehow grows taller than me. And I was scared for him. But now that he's like 5'9", 5'10", I'm like, okay, cool. I'm happy because he'll be like, hey, I'm taller than you. I'm like, cool. It's not even normally like as a father, you'd be like, have a little pride hurt, be like, oh, whatever. Like my son's taller. No, not in this case. I'm like, no, I'm happy for you, son. So you can't even make fun of me,
He's a big kid, and I don't know if he's done growing or not. Eventually he's going to be president too, but it's going to be a thing.
Yeah. Skinny Luther says Trump 24. Yes. And like I said, I really wanted to come on here and just have a good political talk. I know that normally I do paranormal. You and we've been holding off, but I just felt like this election is so critical to talk about this stuff. I mean, and there's so much misinformation out there. Both sides are locked in. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of give or take. Yes, it would be nice if somebody was to watch this video and have a change of heart but they're so just locked in and they have outs for their cognitive dissonance. Instead of facing that cognitive dissonance, they have these outs going, oh yeah, like you can explain anything away, blah blah blah. It's like the things like you were hearing in those messages that were sent to me, and then they just like you're just part of that brainwashed cult, not realizing they're the ones in a cult.
Yeah.
You can't call us in a cult when we actually had a heated primary between Trump, DeSantis, and Nikki Haley and Vivek. We had these candidates out there, and we voted on them, and Trump was the winner, and they all got behind Trump. Even Nikki Haley got behind Trump. And whether it's good or bad, whatever. I'm just saying, but we had a process, a democratic process, and we elected them. And we elected Trump. It wasn't a cult thing. I mean, you had Kamala, who literally, there's articles 2 months before the Biden-Trump debate that was calling for Kamala to step aside because she was holding Biden back. And this is from leftist organizations saying Kamala is holding Trump or Biden back. She needs to step aside and let him pick another VP. Yeah. This is only like 2 months before and then all of a sudden the Biden debate, and they're freaking out, and they pull a coup, they get rid of Biden, and Biden's pissed about it. This is what I want to talk about next. That's why I'm talking about this. Biden's pissed, but he does the thing, and he steps aside. And now all of a sudden, Kamala's the greatest thing, and they prop her up, they do the machine. Right? They put her in the machine, and now everybody loves her, and everybody thinks she's great. And everybody, even though their own fucking people did not like her, she didn't get any votes. She's put in there unelected. She couldn't even get any votes at all going into the primaries before when she was going up against Trump. So now Biden's pissed, and Biden's salty. Salty. I love it. This is the best Biden's been. I don't know about you, but he's actually funny now. It's fucking great.
Well, he doesn't have to do anything. He just has to, keep being the geriatric in chief. He doesn't have to do anything anymore.
I know, but it's fucking funny because he did the Trump hat thing. I guarantee if he was still in the race, he would not have put that fucking thing on his head. He would not have done it.
I'm still expecting the 25th to be invoked. And there's still time where they can do that. They can do that over the weekend. I'm not completely convinced that she's not going to try and do an outright coup d'etat. She wants.
Do you think that they would Do you think they would do that shit after the election and say, hey, just to like fuck up all the promotional materials and be like, hey, Trump's not going to be the 47th president. He's going to be the 48th president.
That would be so petty. But, you know, they've been known to do that before. You know, there was rumors that when Bush got into the White House, the Democrats went around to all the keyboards on all the computers and popped the W off of every keyboard just to, you know, because one of the first things they got to do is they got to write everything was George W. Bush, and they popped all the W's off the keyboard so that every computer had to have the keyboards replaced.
Right.
I mean, it's that kind of pettiness that you see. You know, at the time I thought it was funny, but I wouldn't be surprised. I actually wouldn't be surprised if they didn't, because then you have like this whole, you know, if she was suddenly the president because she invoked the 25th, Biden had a medical emergency, then, you know, she's president now. You might as well vote for her. You know, there would be an instant push where there's this new honeymoon period that she would have right before the election, days before the election. That's been floated out there by several, I don't know what you call them, consultants, you know, in the media. They've been saying that she should do that because she gets that automatic, you know, honeymoon period. So,
right. Well, I mean, I don't think they could. I don't know if they could pull it off by election day, anyways. Because even because we're talking Monday, they'd have to do it like Monday.
no, they could do it tomorrow.
Well,
you know, it's
but
invoking.
But realistically, are they going to be able to pull this off? Would they be able to pull it off by the 5th? And
Yeah.
And even if they did, I really don't think that. I don't think that at this point. I don't think that would help. That's just my.
No, it wouldn't help. But it's one of those things where that kind of fuckery is not beyond them. The 25th Amendment is just signing a piece of paper. It really is. And once that happens, you know, it has to be justified in some way. You know, the part of the Constitution, he has to be incapacitated to fulfill his office.
So if you got just a little more time, I would like to talk about Kamala and like objectively.
Okay.
Because I think, you know, people think like, oh, if you're on one side or the other, you're not capable of thinking, you know, free thinking and stuff. But like Kamala, she's got horrible policies. Literally, like she was copy pasting Biden's policies, and people are like, oh, that's just bullshit. No, like it's already been proven in the HTML coding.
Yeah.
So
Well, this is the whole thing. She has no policies. She's spitballing. She's throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks. She has no policy.
right.
Nothing that has been spelled out. Nothing that has been, you know, her economic policy that she keeps referring to is, you know, beats Trump's economic policy. That wasn't even her policy. That was something that a think tank put together and threw together her name on it. She didn't think of anything. She is a complete empty suit, a vacuous boob.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is like whatever she has brought up, like the housing, things like that, she's talking about giving out money.
Mm-hmm.
Never a good idea. Makes things worse. Experts have already come out and said, no, this is just going to make things worse. So she really has no viable plans other than no taxes on tips, which was Trump's idea. And now Trump even went further and said no labor or no overtime tax. And also, I think he's talking about dropping income tax.
Yeah.
And it's like people are just like, fuck, you know? So it's like, that's what I'm saying. How could people they got that fucking TDS, man. If they could just get past that shit and realize that Trump is, if you just look at policies and things like that, you know, and Stacey, you know how important this is. A role of a president, also a big part of that role is world relations and diplomacy. And when Trump was in office, he had no new wars. He was like the only modern president to not have any new wars. Yes, he had some things he had to take care of in there. He defeated ISIS, stuff like that, like that. He brags about it all the time, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
He defeated ISIS. I remember when Obama, and at the end of Obama's thing there, ISIS was so bad. I was like, oh my God, like what the fuck? This is bad. And they were all over. They were all over the Middle East there. And they were destroying like historical places, things that had been around for thousands of years, museums and antiquities. And they were beheading people. It was so bad. And I'm just like, holy shit. And then when Trump came in, you almost didn't hear about it. He just was like, he didn't tell the enemy, hey, we're going to be doing this. We didn't like, he didn't project his moves through the media. Because they always do that shit. I used to be like, why are they talking about this shit on the media? Like, why do they talk about this shit on TV back like during even the Iraq War and stuff? Like, they would just like talk about all these operations and things like. And I know, granted, they probably were behind or delayed, so the enemy probably couldn't glean a lot of that. But Trump's just like, no, look, and he didn't hardly talk about it, and they just did it. They just went in there and like you just never heard about it anymore. It's like, and all of a sudden he's like, yeah, we defeated him. It's like, what the fuck? And like, how cool is that shit? I mean, because people forget about their memories are so quick. They forget about what it was like to be at that end of time of Obama when ISIS was fucking huge, and Obama's just like, nah, I don't know,
Yeah.
When Trump came in, solved it. That was just one thing that he did. So
that's why they hate him, is because he actually did things.
Well, the war machine.
The war machine needs boogeymen.
The industrial complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, the war complex, man. They need to have war. This Ukraine and the Jewish thing. By the way, there was like so many Jews at the Madison Square Garden thing, and it was like, oh, this is a Nazi rally and blah blah blah. It's like there was Israel flags everywhere. Like there was a ton of Jews. Like I talked to people that were there. It's fucking crazy, man.
Worst Nazi rally ever.
Right. So, but like you don't even have to pick sides, and that's why even the Arabic community is starting to get behind Trump because they just want peace, and that's why even Dearborn, Michigan, which is huge Arabic now. I know the first time I drove through Dearborn when I back in the early 2000, like 2010 and 11 in time frame, and I hadn't been to Dearborn in a long time. I drove through there, and I thought I was driving through another country. There was like businesses with signs in Arabic and stuff. It didn't even feel like the U.S. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. And then I found out that was like a huge migration point for the Arab community, and so it's literally like an Arab town. I don't. That's the right word. I think isn't Arab like isn't that bad? Like I think that's like slang. I think that's bad. I think they don't like the word Arab. Anyways, but the Arabic town, it's so crazy. So anyway, so Dearborn is like the epicenter for a lot of Muslim Americans, and they were talking about they're getting behind Trump because it's not about the whole Palestine and the Palestine and like Jews. Instead of picking a side, they're just like, let's just have peace, and that's what Trump wants. Is peace. So that's what I understand. Like, it's so funny how these leftists they think that they're punk rock, and they're not. Back in the day, punk rock was against the establishment. Now, even bands like Rage Against the Machine are now Rage for the Machine.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's so
the woke mind virus. It's the religion. They've drank Kool-Aid, and they understand that if they don't submit to all the demands within the religion, they get ostracized. And it's the shunning that you would hear about in like Amish communities. They have nothing on the woke, really. They're the shunning that the cancel culture is what it is shunning, and that religion needs to be put down. because it's a religion of self-worship. It's the idea that you must worship my magnificence, and if you don't, you're a Nazi.
Right.
That kind of thing needs to go away.
And the Communism Party, if you look at history, they use the word fascist all the way back to Stalin. It's like they use it against their political opponents.
Yeah.
And so it's almost one of those things where, okay, whatever. But yeah, I feel like we're at this place where I don't know how this country is going to move forward, regardless of who wins. It's going to be tough. I hope that Trump wins. I hope that he's able to bring, his energy policies. I hope not only that, but I hope everybody votes down ticket, and I hope we get the House and Senate together. If we could have a clean sweep, it would be so nice to be able to actually pass solid legislation for the border, for energy, for these policies. And if Elon gets in there and is able to start cleaning up a lot of waste, a lot of government waste, and if RFK is able to go in there and start cleaning up some of these chemicals, because people think, oh, he's going to crash the economy by outlawing all this stuff in the food industry. But the thing is that he's not necessarily trying to, change the entire industry like that. But like a lot of these companies, like some of these cereal companies, they'll have some of these ingredients in cereal that's really bad. But like European, they'll sell the Europeans the same cereals, but made of different ingredients because the Europeans outlawed some of those chemicals. So that's what RFK is talking about. I was like, look, you can still have cereal. You can still have certain things. Yeah, they might not be healthy. You can still have an unhealthy choice. But we just don't want these chemicals, like these certain chemicals and petroleum-based chemicals that are causing a lot more problems.
The only reason they put them in there is for filler. They don't put them in for any nutritional value. They don't put them in for flavor. They put them in as filler so they don't have to spend as much on the base ingredient being oats or corn or whatever it is.
Right. Well, and regardless, that's all. But I think if you start seeing all of these things come together, I just hope that in 4 years, and what do you think about, or what are you thinking about the future, 2028? I know that's kind of a long shot, but what are you thinking about 2028? Are you seeing anybody in the Republican Party that's going to stand out and take the mantle?
Well, JD Vance is going to have first dibs, but I really think that Tulsi has a real shot, simply because she's drop dead gorgeous. First of all, she's intelligent. She's, been trained in the military, which, you can't say anything, on the Democratic side. They've got anyone like that. It comes down to, who's the most competent in getting back to a society that's based on merit rather than, checking a box on how weird you are. We're going to start getting back on track.
Yeah. And I'm just filling in some red here. So I wanted to feel better about myself right now. So Nevada, Arizona, North Carolina, if we can get them red, that leaves us some choices. And like you said, Virginia, I think could be in play. I think so. I really do think Virginia could be in play. And, it was close supposedly in 2020, and I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to come down. But right now, I think we're looking at least a 268 and then just one of these, And I think you're right, though. I think if one goes, we could be looking at all of these. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I want to start wrapping things up. I know it's been like a 3-hour stream. But Stacey, I want to thank you again for joining us tonight. And this has been a much needed stream that we've been wanting to get off our chest because paranormal, I try to keep everything politically neutral. And I'm still going to in the future. You know, we're going to talk paranormal stuff and probably keep it paranormal. But this election is so important. People, you have to get out there and vote. Unless you're voting for Kamala. I'm just kidding. But for real, go out and vote. Whatever you think, whatever you really want to think. If you truly believe, if you watch this video for 3 hours and you still truly believe in Kamala, hey, go vote for her then. You know, if that's what you believe, or stay at home and sit out the election. You know, whatever. But if you're a Trump supporter, you really need to get out there and vote. Tell your friends. When I voted early, and I started telling all my friends, hey, there was a line. There was lines. So if you can vote early, because the last thing you want to do is to be stuck in a line that you don't get to vote or something happened. And for God forbid, something happens November 5th and you can't get there and vote. I mean, you got to get there and vote. If you have early voting, some places like I know Tennessee, their early voting already ended today at 5 p.m. But some places are like November 2nd, like I think Florida, I think is November 2nd. If you can get out there, supposedly Republicans are doing really good when it comes to early voting and things like that right now. So I'm proud. I hope that our grassroots ground game improved since 2020. It seems like it. So we just want to keep things rolling. Again, guys, you're going to see a lot of stuff out there. You're going to see a lot of videos. You're going to see a lot of news articles about cheating. There's already stuff about Pennsylvania. There's already stuff. Guys, it's going to be crazy. So buckle up, buckle in for the ride. All right. And whenever the right points out something, they're going to be like, here we go with the election deniers already. If the left points it out, it's going to be like, hey, just calm down. Everything's okay. Don't worry about it. You know, it's not what you think, you know?
Yeah.
So both sides are going to have their angles on it. So at this point, you just have to do your best. Go do your part. Vote. Don't mail in vote, though. If you can, go to the damn polls. Either go to early or go out on election day. You have to get out there and vote. Mail in votes, though. I mean, guys, come on. You saw what's happening in Oregon. They're torching boxes. They're trying to intimidate people. But at the same time, your vote could end up getting destroyed. I mean, you really need to get out there, early vote, pay attention. I think Stacey brought this up. Some of these touchscreen voting booths, you know, sometimes it's you know, you're touching Trump and it's highlighting Kamala or whatever. Pay attention, guys. Make sure you're logging things in as, you know, your vote. Make sure you're logging in your vote correctly. And if it's not working correctly, bring it up. There's people that are monitoring the elections. Bring it up. Don't let them intimidate you. And they're just like, oh, it's okay. Just do it. Blah blah blah. No, don't just do it. If you push Trump, if you want to vote for Trump, and Kamala keeps highlighting, you get a supervisor. I mean, whatever it takes. Or you find another voter, you have them give you, like, you know, whatever. I mean, you've got to speak up. What about you, Stacey? You got some advice for people out there?
No, that covered it.
Yeah. Other than that, guys, I want to thank you again for listening to us rant on. And I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's stream. Again, I just felt like those things that I covered tonight was a lot of the normal subjects that we've been hearing from the left, a lot of their normal complaints about Trump. And so I wanted to address those. I just felt like I wanted to address those as somebody that I'm not a far right conservative. I'm not violent. I'm not part of some big conspiracies. You know, I can tell you, being voting for Trump, we don't have any hidden agendas of like, oh, I can't wait till Trump gives us the signal. There's nothing crazy out there. We don't want violence. We don't want J6. You know, that's not us. You know, the people that are voting for Trump are good American people that just want good for the country. That's it, folks. No big conspiracies. We just want good things for the country. We want just, fair things.
Mm-hmm.
We want fair justice. We want fair borders. We want a border that only allows in legal immigrants. We want immigration, right? Abortion. Oh God, that's a whole nother subject. That maybe we should talk about that real quick. What do you think? You got enough time to talk about that?
No, that's how you get banned from YouTube. In 3 hours, just disappeared.
Right. I know. Well, what I wanted to say about it is, look, no matter what your moral views are on that, I don't like how they framed it as it's all about women's health, right? They took away the actual subject and made it about women's health and how Trump was not going to let women choose their own health options, and it's not good framing.
Almost.
So anyway, I just wanted to at least point that out, folks. Is like, just be careful of that. Don't believe everything. Believe it or not, Trump was actually more pro-choice than you realize. He does make exceptions for the rape, incest, and medical. And he said he was not going to ban it nationally, despite what you may have thought you heard or misheard. So I just wanted to point that out to people. In fact, it's actually got him a little bit of trouble with some of the hardcore Christians that are very pro-life. They were kind of mad that he is slightly pro-choice. So anyways, that's all I wanted to point out. I didn't want to get too much into the weeds of moral and ethical discussions of where people stand, because that's your own choice, your own preference on that. I just wanted to point at the framing and how they really try to put Trump in this far away type thing from that category. So other than that, Stacey, any last words on that?
I think we're good. We burned out the midnight oil.
Nice. Well, guys, thank you all so much. Appreciate you. Remember, tune in every Thursday at 9 p.m. Except, well, for the most part, I'm going to be doing it. I am going to be going to Michigan soon to do some filming and going back home to Michigan soon in the second week of November. So I may not have a show then. I might try to go live from Michigan. I don't know. We'll see. But guys, we got a lot coming up. Stay in tune. We just brought on 3 more team members onto Teps Investigates. We've got 2 more in the hole, so to speak, that are waiting to join. We've expanded our team quite a bit. They're going to be showing up in the second half of season 2. And they'll be out and about with us doing investigations soon. So guys, we're growing even more here. A lot more stuff's coming out in the future real soon around the corner. So I'm excited. So stay tuned with us. We hope to see you next Thursday at 9 p.m. And we'll see you then. All right, guys. See ya.
Peace.